Mm-hmm.
What's up, gamers, and welcome back to the SuperScope podcast, your wrap-up in this week's biggest gaming stories, leaks, and rumors. We're back with episode 52. I am your host, Retro Game Dude. Of course, joining me, as always, is my co-host, Daisuke Aurora of Phoenix Aurora Gaming. You can also find the audio version of this podcast on Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Amazon's fine offerings. If you're into the audio form of this podcast, make sure you follow us over there, too, because it does help us tremendously. So we're back, and it looks like I think the audio is working right now. For now. All right. So, what do we have coming up on the show? We're going to be talking about Sonic Frontiers. We're going to talk about Sony's new MMORPG in the works. And we're going to talk a little bit about the IndieWorld showcase. Not too in depth, but we'll broach it. And then we're going to talk about a little bit more of some Game of the Year stuff, and then obviously the future of Twitter, the subject we can't afford to ignore anymore at this point because it's impacting just about everything, including the gaming stratosphere. So, how the hell have you been this week?
I'm staying busy, same as always.
Right.
Been good though.
Cool. Good deal. Same here. What do we do? What did we do this week? We played some Castle Crashers. That's for sure.
Yep. We learned how to fight those. What was it? We started fighting in the beginning that we got stuck. Those panda dudes with the magic or something. We were stuck on them for a little bit.
We got stuck on that. That was the first week we did it, but we got stuck on the what was that level?
The lava place.
The lava place, and then the mechanical castle.
Yep.
That's kind of like a hurdle anytime you play the game. It is what it is there. And then
the window for those clubs like this, like the engine piston style clubs, is it's very non-forgiving window.
Right. Very. But yeah, we had a good time with that. Finally figured out, I guess, kind of like some of the core mechanics of getting through that mechanical castle level. That was, we finally got through that. Then we made it to the desert area, and it seemed like the difficulty level kind of snapped back, kind of normalized there. We had a good time.
Oh yeah.
But we'll be playing that again Tuesday. I think our other mod, Lovey Ray, will be there. She said that she wanted to play, so we'll see. So I think she'll be there. So we'll get her caught up with the character, and then Wednesday we're gonna continue with the Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion. Is that what it's called? Okay.
Oh yeah, Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion.
Right. So I'll be having the first episode of Castle Crashers pop up on YouTube this week, and probably the first episode of Spookies as well. So look forward to that coming on YouTube this week. And that's pretty much all I have for our stream update. We did play some Jackbox last night. Not the biggest turnout in the world. So I don't know if it has to do with my hashtags, but I'm trying to find new places to pull players, and it's just kind of becoming slim pickings. I don't know if people just didn't receive the Jackbox 9 too well. I thought it was a banger, but hopefully next week we can pull some more heads. I mean, we were able to play a full stream, but it got a little hairy there for a minute.
Might be even because it's so new, maybe people didn't pick it up yet.
It's possible.
Because the rest of Jackboxes, I imagine, have been around a long time, probably dipped on sales some points. More people probably have them or something.
Sure.
I almost wonder, do you think maybe it'd be more effective to open with an older Jackbox? And then get maybe a bigger pull there, and then oh hey, we're gonna switch over to 9. You guys can play along, and then hey, did you know if you didn't know 9's out, it's only been a little while, or stuff like that.
People don't need the game to play it along with us.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But, I just wonder if maybe people don't know. Well, yeah, I guess that's true. I wonder if maybe people just didn't realize 9 even came out yet, so they're not really thinking to look for Jackbox 9. I don't know.
But when you list it on Twitch, it's just Jackbox Party Packs. It doesn't list the individual packs.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. Someone said something last week or this week about trying out Quiplash 2, and maybe we'll check that out too, because we usually open with Quiplash 3. I haven't been back to Quiplash 2 since we've been playing with 3, so maybe I'll check that out and see what happens with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that'll pretty much be this week's schedule. Excuse me. What else do we have here on the list? Of course, I mean, we're here Sundays for the SuperScope podcast. What are you playing this week?
I've mostly been playing Don't Starve with Daimyo. That's been a blast. I've never played that game before, and we just started playing it like a week ago or something, a week and a half ago or something like that. It's punishing but good. It's fun. It's definitely a learning curve kind of game. You will get murdered by something and be like, what the fuck? And then you have to like decide to like go back and try again.
Right.
There's a lot of like, holy shit, why is that a thing moments. That's for sure. You were in there last night in our chat with us when we were like getting killed by heat, killed by like giant frog rain, killed by random crater attack from big dude we can't see. Like, yeah, it was tough.
I'll hop in with you sometime.
Yeah, it's fun.
I haven't. I played it like when it first came out. I didn't really care for it too much. I think it was only single player at that point too. So
yeah, it's like actually we were looking at it and talking about that. Don't Starve is like a standalone game, and then Don't Starve Together was like a sequel title with pretty much the same mechanics and everything.
Sure.
But it's considered its own game. Even if you went on Steam to get them, they're actually two different titles. Which is kind of wild. But the nice thing that they did was like, because Jace was looking at it the other day on his Steam, I think like Don't Starve is like $15, and it comes with a second license that you just hand to someone. So I'm pretty sure Daimyo bought it, and then because he just gave it to me, I signed in one day and I had a gift from Daimyo for that, and I was like, oh cool. And I'm pretty sure he must have bought it and then gave me the copy for something for us to play together.
Right.
So that's cool. We could always like, you know, if you ended up getting it to play with me and Daimyo, you could always just hand one to like a community member or a mod or something.
Oh, true. Cool. All right. What am I playing this week? I haven't really been touching Final Fantasy 14 lately. I kind of like peek in, check retainers, pop out. It's just kind of been difficult to kind of get the group together. We're trying to do like a Tower of the Dead run, just for the hell of it, and just getting a group together for that lately just seems like a challenge. It's just kind of like a weird time of year, I think, for a lot of people. So
yeah, I think the best bet is for me and you and Claire to just go for it by ourselves.
I think I mean you and I run it with just me and you. I'm pretty sure we could do it like with a 3-person team.
Yeah. I think it might be a little hairier as we get higher, but like once we get to like our 90s and our full job unlocks, I think we can go all the way to 200 without a problem. Because we're not doing it for the achievement, so we can still do 10 floors at a time and just keep kind of saving if we die.
Right, and just peck at it as we need to.
Yeah. I think that would work out. And then I know that like for me personally, it gets kind of like when I don't know why it is, but like when I hear there's a live letter for Final Fantasy, I like kind of put the game down a little bit.
Uh-oh. Did we lose him?
So the one we just got. What's up?
I thought we lost you for a second there.
Oh, okay. Sorry. The live letter we just got had like the broad information. Like we're getting this raid, we're getting this dungeon, we're getting another deep dungeon, we're getting this, that. That whole long list I sent you guys. And what usually for some reason what happens with me is like I'll kind of stop playing the game around that time, and then when they give us the more detailed live letter of what's exactly coming and details of like levels and things, I'll jump back in and start getting ready for that. I think it's like just some sort of thing I kind of picked up to like avoid burning out is like when I get the first live letter, I kind of just put the game down so I know that when I come back for the other one, I'll be ready to play it without feeling like I've been playing it nonstop. I don't really think about it, so it must be some kind of like subconscious thing I just do.
Yeah, that's fair.
I know like the last week or two I've been not signing into Final Fantasy. I mean, it didn't help. I feel like we did like they dropped Criterion Dungeon and I was like, yeah, Criterion. And then me and you and Claire were like, all right, we're gonna do Criterion. And then like we kind of had a problem with our fourth failing a little.
Yeah.
And then we just never did it.
Right.
After that. So
yeah.
That's what it is.
I should honestly I haven't even touched like the Island Sanctuary yet, except for like doing like the first like initial part of it. And since like no one's on, this is probably like the best time to do it. So
you should. I ran that through to the end, and it's getting improvements. We're getting like a couple new animals. Content. We're getting a tiger. We're getting a tiger that supposedly, if you don't check in on him, he'll do something. I don't know what it was.
Maul your shit.
Probably actually.
Uh-oh.
There's also a couple of other monsters coming. I forget what they did. They all had unique mechanics tied to them.
Mhm.
Another new structure is coming. And I think they were like, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but there's rare monsters on the Island Sanctuary too that you can catch at certain times of day. So you could have some fun chasing those guys down. Like you can get like regular chocobos, but at certain times of day you can get like the black chocobo, or you can get like very different variations of the monsters basically.
Interesting.
So that's cool. And then you can just like, when you catch like the rare thing, you replace the normal one in your sanctuary with the rare one or something just to have them all. But yeah, no, there's all kinds of stuff coming. There's improvements coming. There's like quality of life changes coming to the island to make it so it's easier to like move things around and do all the things at once. Because like right now you have to like talk to all your animals individually to collect their parts. You have to talk to each individual plant to harvest your garden, and they're gonna make that all like a harvest all click, or like take all animals click. Like they're making changes to make it better.
That's good.
Which is great because it wasn't even like it was bad, but they're like hearing what people are nitpicky about and say, well, we'll fix that too.
Mm-hmm.
Which my favorite thing about the Final Fantasy team is like, I swear to God, they'll listen to the tiniest quippy nitpicks and be like, we'll fix that too. And they're like, they'll just fix it. It's
Nice.
wild. They definitely don't stop.
Yeah, no doubt.
And hey, we get to go, the next 24-man raid comes out and we get to go into, they showed that big tree, which makes me, it screams Gridania for me.
Gridania, yeah.
And Gridania would be Nafika, which means you get to, we get to go fight her.
It seems to make the most sense. So we'll fight her plus a couple other of the other.
Four more. Yep.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Cool to see.
I don't know who the patron saint for Ul'dah was. Thal and Nald, the twins or whatever. The patron saint for Gridania is Nafika. I don't know which one is for Limsa. It's probably some water dude, I have to guess. I don't know the 12 very well, so I'm not super familiar.
Maline?
Maybe. Hang on a sec. Claire just said no sound from you?
From me?
Hang on.
There better be, goddammit.
I heard sound from you just now. Am I crazy?
Maybe.
Hang on, I'm gonna mute again.
You're not hearing anything?
No, yeah, you're making sound.
Okay.
Okay, I'm muting. No, yeah, I don't know. That's weird. You're making sound on my end. That's really bizarre. At least when I unmute the stream, you're making noise. So, what was I gonna say? Hey, we get to go. The next that's probably get to go. The water one's got to be in the last chunk. They showed that big tree, which makes me. It screams Ul'dah, not Ul'dah. The other six, though, I have no idea. Like you've got like Halone, and you've got like some other people. I don't know where they're gonna show up there somewhere.
Gotcha.
But I think, are Nald and Thal separate ones, or are they considered one thing?
They're considered one thing. Yeah.
Okay, I was about to say, because then we did be off one, but no, yeah, that makes sense then.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not going to pronounce it right, but Malane, the Navigator, which would absolutely make sense.
He's going to navigate us to our doom. Oh man!
Daughter of Thalik and Azema, the elder sister of Nafika.
Oh, okay. Well then, yeah. So we're gonna have those two.
Sure.
And then we've got our next. I mean, God, I won't even go into it because there's too much. It'd be the whole podcast. There's so much stuff on that list. I sent you like 6 pictures of like just lists of content coming.
Next time we do a live letter, we'll just do an episode.
Dude, it's gonna have to be like a live letter episode.
I'll just let you talk for an hour and I'll take the break.
Yeah. No, because literally, where is it? I put it right, right in front of all these things, maybe.
Oh, you know why Claire can't hear me? I bet she's watching it from the start.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah,
that very well could be the case. That would definitely cause that problem. That's for sure. Maybe I got rid of the. Oh no, here they are. Yeah, there's like a quick. This is what it would be. Main scenario quest, Tadaru's Endeavor, Newfound Adventure quests, Further Hildebrand quest, Tribal quest for the Loperates, Main story quest dungeon, Lapis Manilis, New Trials, Blank and Blank Extreme, New Unreal Trial, New 24-man raid, New Ultimate Duty, 2 weeks after 6.3, which that's like the ultimate. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we're getting a fifth ultimate already. New deep dungeon, Eureka Orthos in the 6.35, which will be like, a couple months in. New treasure dungeon. New duty support added for other stuff from Heavensward. Job changes, balancing stuff for Paladin. Apparently Paladin's getting a big rework, actually, so you might like the way it plays after. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Crafting and gathering, new enhancement quests. We're getting the relic weapon for the crafters now, again. Like we got back in the last one. New custom deliveries. Changings for fishing. Island sanctuaries, new ranks, new visions, new item rewards, new workshop interfaces, quality of life changes, new animals. User interface changes.
I saw they're adding portraits to the duty finder now.
Yes, that should be
interesting.
Hilarious.
Except I was trying to find that fishing rod picture we found, but I couldn't find it again.
Oh yeah, the guy with the face.
Yeah,
like he's got the fishing rod.
Yeah, that's wild shit, dude. Yeah, that's gonna pose a problem.
Yeah, they're doing they put out the housing update. They're adding more housing. A total of 1,800 new plots per world.
Oh.
Yeah. Gold Saucer's getting a new Leap of Faith course.
Dude, that's so much fucking content for a patch.
It's absolutely new deep dungeon, new trial extreme, 24-man raid, treasure dungeon, new ultimate trial.
We're getting more maps. Holy shit.
We're getting a new map dungeon too, called the Shifting Gymnasium Agonon. So new deep dungeon, new 24-man raid, new trial extreme, new main story quest dungeon, new treasure dungeon, new ultimate duty, plus expansion on the relic weapon quest, plus crafter relic weapons, plus adding to the island sanctuary, plus the main story quest, plus the other 2 side quest things, Tatsuru's Grand Endeavor and Tales of a Newfound Adventure, plus stuff for the Loporrits, crafting. It's a new crafting beast tribe for us to do crafters.
That's what's up.
I mean, I don't want to be that guy, but the amount of content they put out per patch is insane. And meanwhile, I look at other games on my list that are considerable games that maybe we would play, and I can go get an emblem because a gun took over the game for 48 hours.
Right. The quarterly updates that we get out of certain games is pretty wild. When you look at the content that comes out after a 15-week patch, not even 15 weeks, maybe 2 months?
On the one hand, I'm preparing for literally months worth of playing content, and on the other hand, they're like, lol, gun takeover game. Here's emblem. Yeah. I'm like, okay, thanks community event. And that was the best part, because people were like, yeah, we're getting a community event this week, and then that happened, and people were like, oh, it's going to be a whole community event around this gun, and then it was like, it's an emblem. Knock yourselves out.
Right.
We're like, okay.
Yeah, gun makes spark, here's emblem. What kind of community event is that?
Listen, it took them a long time to make those sparks, and
they have to use algebra.
And have a UI window pop up and say, I am Telesto, visit me on Twitter. Oh boy.
Good stuff.
One of these games, one of the state of these games is not like the other.
Right.
But hey, I mean, they've still got more users than Twitter Blue, so I guess there's that. That's a thing.
I don't know which direction the insult goes for that one.
I have no idea. I just saw that and I was like, I'm putting it down on the ground. Take it wherever it needs to go.
The insult could work either way, and I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, that's funny.
Oh, man.
I like the background, by the way. I just noticed it was the Kevin Conroy Batman.
Yeah, so this is kind of my tribute here. Kevin and Conroy unfortunately passed away this week. Obviously the voice of Batman since I was a kid. And he's just been multi-generational Batman all the way from the Batman animated series. Then they did the Justice League that kind of crossed over where Batman was ending, Justice League was starting. I think there was kind of a bit of about a year crossover there. Still to this day, one of my favorite TV shows is the original animated Batman series.
Oh yeah.
I think he did some games. He did all of the animated movies, all the animated kind of offshoot series. it's a huge loss for any gaming fan, any comic book fan, any just Batman fan, any just even like casual Batman fan. I mean, again, this was a pivotal TV show for its time. Incredible art, incredible background art, incredible just everything. Just the theme, the nuance, everything about those shows were so good. So yeah.
Yeah. And even like he did, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't he Batman's voice in like the Arkham games as well?
I'm pretty sure he was, yes.
I'm pretty sure him and Hamill were both in on it to do Batman and Joker.
Yep.
He's just like the definitive voice of Batman. Like whenever I hear Batman talk and it's not him, it's weird.
Mm-hmm.
The only exception I think with that was like Batman Beyond. I didn't have any problem with like the guy who did Terry.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, I'm pretty sure Kevin Conroy was in that show.
He was still old. Yeah, he was old Bruce Wayne, right?
I really like Batman Beyond, but I think Batman Beyond just fleshed out what this show did well. This show's writing for the time was like unheard of. It was very much a show that could hold its own today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe with some touch of animation, I guess, but like that's the 90s, right? What are you gonna do about that? Yeah, phenomenal. Real shame. Great dude. Great voice work. Shame to see him go.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm playing this week, Into the Breach. So this one's kind of flew under the radar for me. I saw it pop up on Reddit on a Switch game collecting Reddit. Took a look at it. I'm like, absolutely have to have it. It's did we talk about this last week?
You said it was really good and that I should check it out.
Yeah, it is really good. You should check it out.
I think it was off the podcast. I think you just mentioned it in a Discord call.
I was like, I don't remember if I brought this up last week or not, but I did play a little bit more of it. The game is great. Like if you're into like Advance Wars or Final Fantasy Tactics style games, it leans more into, I would say, like Advance Wars. But the battles are a little bit shorter. So it's usually like a 5 or 6 round turn. It's kind of got some like roguelike elements to it. Like if you lose the battle, so the game starts, you're getting sent back in time when the game starts. So you're starting at a game over. You get sent back, like, so you basically, anytime you fail, you go back into this time rift to try to start over, to try to fix like the time. I guess Earth or wherever this is, you're getting invaded by these weird bug creatures that crawl out of the ground, and it's just basically devastating the planet. So you go back as like these, you have a team of like 3 mechs, and you can unlock different teams as you play. I got the minion I wanted, so I'm good. Nice. So,
oh, please! There's going to be new stuff in that dungeon. That's why we're not taking you.
Yeah. So it's really great. You can, it's a game where you can kind of just drop in for a couple minutes and then wrap it up. If you just only have like a couple minutes to play, it's perfect. You can like play it in like little bite-sized pieces. Now, the great thing about it is, too, it's like you have like these islands, you have to play like a minimum of like a certain amount of these little skirmishes, and then once you play like, I think like 4 or 5, you face the boss. And after you beat that boss, then you can checkpoint on the island. So even if you go back in time, you can skip that island again when you come back.
That's cool.
Yeah, so you do get a little bit of like RPG elements, like your team can level up. You can find like weapons on the battlefield and kind of equip them later, upgrade your weapons. I will say that, I mean, it is a difficult game, even with like a 5 or 6 turn thing. It's the level ramp is a little rough, but I definitely enjoy it. You can find this on Steam as well. I have it on the Switch. I might actually pick it up on Steam too, just to have it on the Steam Deck. But yeah, I can't recommend it enough. So Into the Breach, definitely recommend it. Let's talk about pickups. I got a bunch of Switch games this month. So I pulled Shin Megami Tensei. I pulled that. I actually found this used for like $16, so I pulled that. Obviously, Into the Breach, grabbed that. Arcade Paradise. This actually just came this week. I haven't even gotten the plastic off of it. Tactics Over. I cannot wait to bust this open. That is kind of like the predecessor to Final Fantasy Tactics, obviously made by Square. The piece de resistance, the absolute peak of Switch gaming, Balan Wonderworld. Got this for stupid cheap. I don't know if it'll ever come out of the plastic. I bought it for the meme. Harvestella, I need to play that as well. I got my order from Special Reserve Games. Card Shark came in. And then Super Rare Games, I got The Tourist and Fast RMX. Fast RMX obviously being a launch title for the Switch. And The Tourist, obviously a really critically acclaimed game. I really want to try this out too. And then last, I got Persona 5 Royal Steelbook Edition. So that's our pickups for, I guess, this last month or so. That's a lot of meat to dig into, so I'll definitely be checking some of those games out soon, and maybe stream some of them. We'll see. So,
Nice.
we'll stick into our social media accounts here real quick. Game Dude Retro on Twitter. You can find me there. This podcast itself, I love to find more time to use it, but we're SuperScope Cast on Twitter for the podcast itself. You can find me on Twitch, where I do all my streaming. Game Dude Retro. I'm sorry, Retro Game Dude on Twitch, and then YouTube. Obviously, you're here. It's at Retro Game Dude as well. And then we don't have a sponsor right now because of Handheld Legend. They are switching over to a new affiliate system, so I'm just waiting for all that to clear, and then hopefully we'll just have them back, and it will be a smooth process. So it's kind of where we are right now with that. So no sponsor this week. That's all right. So let's get into the quick headlines. Obviously, we saw Sonic Frontiers launch this week, and we saw some mixed reviews with, I would say, like, mostly positive, but there was just some weird outliers. What was it? Digital Trends with, like, a 1 out of 5 and just shat all over the game, and it's like, someone pissed, did Sonic the Hedgehog, like, come piss in your Cheerios, like, that you're so angry at this game? I don't understand it.
Well, I'll never take a review seriously when it starts by saying, like, oh, remember Sonic 06 was bad? Well, now let me talk about the game I'm reviewing. Like, what?
Right.
Like, what does that have to do with anything?
Right. So yeah, let's take a look here. We have VGC. Sonic Frontiers has smashed the series record for concurrent players on Steam, nearly doubling the record set by Sonic Mania 5 years ago. So that's pretty impressive, I would have to say. That's doing gangbusters right there. Sonic Mania was phenomenal, well loved. So it just, with Digital Trends, really weird take on the whole situation. It didn't get, I don't know, it kind of got like the review we were expecting it to get through Metacritic. But the player count was really, or the player review was really interesting. So we got a meta score of like 72 from critics. User score at 8.7. Now, Daisuke, why is this interesting?
Wait, the user score?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let me tell you about the user score. No, so the Steam review, if I'm not mistaken, the Metacritic scores are pretty much all in the 8+ range, like 8.2, 8.5, 8.7. PC was like 8.7, PS5 was 8.7. I think all the other consoles were in the green still.
Yeah.
Steam reviews are like 95% overall right now, so like overwhelmingly positive. And I thought it was funny because there's a game of the year coming up next month, and the whole conversation's been happening like what's going to be game of the year, and a lot of people are like tossing between it being Elden Ring or God of War. And if you actually go look up people's reviews on Elden Ring, on Steam, it's a 92%, which makes it not overwhelmingly positive, but just very positive, both overall and recently. It's actually been getting better reviews lately because people, I guess, picking it up late or something. I don't know. And I mean, I don't want to say that I'm biased because I'm not biased for Elden Ring. And I do like Sonic, so maybe I have a little bit of a Sonic bias going on. But if Sonic's getting user reviews at like an 8.5, 8.7-ish area, and Elden Ring's user reviews couldn't break 8, because if you go look it up, none of Elden Ring's user reviews on Metacritic are higher than 7.8 or 7.9 or something. And it's getting beat on Steam, 95% against 92%. Why are we talking about Elden Ring against God of War when we keep talking about God of War against Sonic Frontiers?
Sure.
Unless the only metric you go by is like critic reviews, because critics, like you said, there were some random critics who gave it like a 1 out of 5. A couple of random critics, but you know what's funny? If you go back and look at Elden Ring reviews, all the critics that gave it 10 out of 10 are people we've never heard of. Like IGN Spain, or like places that are like weird ones. And then if you actually scroll to the bottom of the list for Elden Ring reviews, at the bottom there's a bunch of reviews from regular game reviewer places that never finished their reviews for some reason. They just left them hanging. And I almost wonder if it was like everyone had been like, this game's 10 out of 10, and they just didn't want to write their reviews because they were going to give it a 7 or an 8 and get shit on the internet for it.
Right.
Like everybody did who said anything bad about that game. So
the gatekeeping was incredible.
Incredible, dude.
Oof.
How many people were like, "Hey, I accidentally missed the tutorial," because it turns out the entire tutorial is easily skippable and poorly done, and people were like, "Oh, get good," and it was like,
That's not.
my guy, this game sold gangbusters because a lot of people got hyped into playing it and were really excited to play a new Souls game or get into the Souls franchise for the first time. And the way the game was designed was bad for them. And then you looked at them and said, "Well, sucks for you." What?
Right.
I'm sorry.
If your excuse to a game having issues is, well, then don't play. Like, we see it with Destiny, too. We see, like, oh, well, this is a bad creative choice, or this is a bad development choice.
Yeah.
If the answer is, then don't play, then that's shitty. That's
well, look what happened when the price
ass.
went up $10 last time for the expansion. And then this time the price stayed the same, but we lost the dungeon key part of it.
Right.
or whatever it was. So, like, the extra part. No, now it's $80 for everything, but you don't have the... you have to buy the first season. It's 50 or 80 instead of 40 or 80. And we're like, hey, making it 50 and 80 and including the first season by force is worse because you're making people spend more money now than they would have had to before. If they wanted the $50 expansion plus season, they could have done that. But now you've packaged them together so they have to buy it. That's actually a bad thing for people. And they were like, well, then don't buy it. And it's like, okay, but when everybody doesn't buy it, or a lot of people don't buy it, you can't be mad when, like, cough, cough, literally right now, Destiny's numbers are in the shitter. And then they're like, well, then don't play it if you don't like it. If you don't think it's funny that new players signed into the game and saw that Telesto took over the game and was on Twitter, and were like, why is the game telling me this? I don't live on Twitter or even use Twitter. This means nothing to me. This just feels like the game's being weird. Like, how many people played Destiny and their Telesto was broken for like a week? And they didn't know it was a joke. They don't go online and check. They don't look it up. They're just like, I don't know, Telesto was being weird. It was some kind of bug. I do hear randomly sometimes that Telesto is like, haha, it's broken or it's a bug. But maybe it was just stupid again. And then a week later, it just gets fixed. And they're like, okay. For those people, it just looks like Destiny is like an unstable mess. Like, maybe they don't even know what they're doing anymore. And they're like, what the fuck is happening at Bungie? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, they basically oriented this event around people who live online. And that's probably not a great idea.
Sure.
I don't know. It's funny if you do that shit on Twitter because then only the people on Twitter see it. But like when I sign into Destiny on the main page and the main page is like, I am Telesto, I am Telesto, I am Telesto, I am Telesto. I'm like, I don't get what this is. This is weird and dumb. And I'm just going to go do something else, I guess.
Right.
Or like, I don't know if the game's, if I am Telesto pops up all over my screen and then I go to the vault and I take out Telesto and it's broken, there's no mystery to solve. There was no community event. You couldn't go do a thing. You couldn't go figure anything out. You just had to wait for them to just change Telesto to be not broken. So what is a new player supposed to do? See that and be like, oh yeah, I should go look up on Twitter and set up an account and follow Destiny so I can see what's happening with Telesto. And then it turns out it's just an emblem and it's like, oh, I'm glad I did all that for this emblem. Like, you guys couldn't just give me the emblem or something? Well, I don't know. The whole thing was just like, I don't know. The whole thing was just stupid. Like, and people were expecting a community event. They were expecting another thing to do in the game, and it wasn't.
We've seen like past community events where we saw like Rasputin send its like Warmind nodes to shoot Almighty out of the sky to avoid it from hitting the tower.
Oh yeah, we had some crazy cool ones.
And then we had like the Traveler coming back and rehealing itself and like giving giving like Guardians extra powers, and now we're relegated to like, here's an emblem. Like, it just seems like this, like, Destiny or Bungie is just, like, writing it off, and everything's, like, so formulated that they're just not doing anything super creative. We saw them talk about how, like, they're not doing any other secret missions anymore because of the cost of encryption. It's like, excuse me? It's like, we know how much money you're making on, like, just your cosmetic store alone. Like, I don't want to hear about the cost of anything, especially now that you have, like, Sony-backed money. It's horseshit.
Absolutely. It's insane. And it's like, and there's ways you could get around by doing this where, like, you could have a lot of this content literally not get dropped until the day that it comes out, and then it wouldn't matter if you encrypted it. If you had a Whisper of the Worm style mission coming out, you don't have to preload all that stuff. You can just have it drop the day of, and then it's in the game.
It's in the patch.
Like, there's nothing to data mine. It's there. We know it's there. I mean, I guess the day of the patch, people could data mine and see it, but at that point, it's already there for people to go find. So what does it matter? Like,
de-incentivize the
they just want to have these long drawn out things where people have to solve a bunch of things over time. And if that's the case, that's a whole nother bag of worms. But I don't think that's what people are like hammering for. People are like, people want stuff like Whisper of the Worm mission and 0 Hour mission back. We don't necessarily care if we have to do like the 18-step sleeper simulacrum or whatever. Well, that was the sleeper gun, where like you had to do bit by bit by bit by bit as they put it out or whatever.
Sure.
That's whatever. I mean, it'd be cool, but it's not the end of the world. I think just having stuff like 0 Hour or Last Wish or not Last Wish, Whisper of the Worm was like cool shit that we need to get back to, and we're never gonna.
Right.
It's been years. Yeah, it sucks. But anyway, Sonic Frontiers reviews are good from players.
Yeah, so let's talk. I mean, let's talk about like what is the criteria of a Game of the Year game?
Right.
Obviously, if we go by just like critic Metascore, I mean that's one way to go about it. But why
that seems stupid? Because like we had critics giving it a 1 out of 5 because they didn't like Sonic Boom or something. Like, come on,
61.
Famitsu gave this game a 35 out of 40, and they're pretty solid as far as I know. They're like one of the respected ones everyone talks about. And God of War got a 36. It scored 1 point higher than Sonic Frontiers in Famitsu. So if that's a metric, that seems like a pretty good one.
Sure. I mean, I think like you have like a user score based on 1,400 ratings.
Yeah.
And you have a critic score based on off of 61. I mean, you would think that the user score has a more accurate pool just because of the numbers. You have a more accurate per capita rating. It's frustrating to see this because, you know, like the player score isn't being taken into account for a lot of these games. That's what should be more taken into account. These are the people that are going out to buy the games. These are the people that are consuming and giving an honest review.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I don't think you need to be a professional reviewer to either say that you do or do not like the game.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Is like I see so many people all the time where they're like, "Oh, did you see like Elden Ring is a good example where it's like you look up the Metascore for that game and it's a 96, right?" And I started looking at these people. Slant Magazine, never heard of it. Atomics, never heard of it. God is a Geek, never heard of it. GRY Online, Post Arcade. Who are these people?
Right.
No, seriously, like Slant Magazine, The Enemy, Edge Magazine, Carol Quintain.
People that paid money to lobby for like a journalist pass through Metacritic, I guess. I don't know.
Look, I've just never seen a single one. The Loadout. Het space NIEUWSBLAD. Gave it 100. Mara Station gave it 100. Daily Star. Who the fuck are these people? You know what it is? They're Souls players. They're Souls fans who have probably never reviewed a game, and then they were like, "Oh my god, Souls game," and they reviewed it. CD Action, Area Hugones. Who are these people? And they're all hundreds. And then you actually go to the very bottom of this list, and do you know who didn't finish their reviews?
Like
Ars
Forbes?
Technica.
They didn't
Eurogamer.
finish the reviews.
Ars Technica didn't even finish their review.
And like you said,
didn't
it was probably more tactful that they tactful
to not do it
because they probably would have gotten their asses dragged.
Ars Technica, Eurogamer, Giant Bomb, Kotaku, Polygon, The Washington Post are the 6 of the 7 at the bottom who didn't finish their reviews of this game.
They were afraid of Fallout. Guarantee it.
Yeah, they were given it an 8 or something, and then got shit on.
Yep.
So they didn't, and we're talking this game's a year old. How did they not finish their reviews? We know why they didn't finish their reviews. They didn't just say like, "Oh, we forgot to finish." They obviously finished playing it. They just never went back and finished the review.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's hilarious to see that because it's like, it's packed with like 80-ish reviews. 84 critics, and I haven't heard of like 50 or 60 of them. I've never seen any of these people review anything ever on here. Every time you look at any other game, none of those come up.
These are people that probably pass the minimum criteria to get like a critic review pass on Metacritic. They probably have like some fucking crazy blog or something, like some blogspot website that they use to kind of like hoof to make it look like they have like that they write articles or something. I don't know, but yeah, I'd love to background check some of these dudes after the show just to be like, oh, okay. Would not be surprised.
And then yeah, like and then we were looking at like people like Famitsu giving the game a 35 out of 40. People like Forbes giving Sonic Frontiers a 90. like actual game review scores coming in at like over 8.5 on like all different platforms. Steam review coming in at 95% for 5,000 Steam players.
Mm.
Like you don't get 5,000 people who buy Sonic Frontiers on Steam, play it, give it a 100% rating or something like that because they're fanboys. These people aren't buying
Right.
Sonic Frontiers for $60 on Steam so they can give it a good review.
Yeah,
Like,
Sonic doesn't
you're
have
actually
that.
enjoying this game.
Sonic the Hedgehog does not have that base.
No.
I mean, do they have some niche fans? Absolutely.
Oh, totally.
But they don't have the fandom that Elden Ring has.
Oh, but even when you have Sonic fanboys, they don't like 3D Sonic. They like 2D Sonic. So they don't even defend Sonic Frontiers or games like it because it's not the thing they like about Sonic. They like Mania or Sonic Knuckles or like stuff like that. So every time a game like Sonic Frontiers comes out, even the Sonic fan base usually looks at it and scoffs because it's not a 2D Sonic, which is the thing that it seems like is the only way to do good Sonic.
I'd say it's a very divided community. It's really weird.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, it's just funny to watch. And I'm like, okay, well, if we go off like user scores, Sonic Frontiers should be a Game of the Year contender. If we're going off critic scores, why are we even bothering? Because we're just letting the people who like write reviews. And how many times have we seen people always joke about like, oh, journalists know how to play games. They don't know how to do the opening in Cuphead. They, this, that, and the other.
Right.
So it's like at this point, it's a popularity contest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's a popularity contest. If the reviewer scores from critics are the only ones that matter, why do we even bother with Game Awards? We just let like it's like the Oscars or whatever. We let like 30 people pick what game is the best game of the year based on what their kids played. Remember we watched that whole thread where it was like people on like it was at the Oscars or the Emmys where they were just like, oh, I didn't watch half these movies. One dude was like, oh, I don't watch like weird movies from China, and it was like Japanese movies. Mm-hmm. One guy was like, oh, I didn't watch Nope because like black director. Like I'll just give it to like this other movie. Like we see that shit all the time, and you're gonna tell me that game critics are any different? Like, so I was like, yeah, if it's off user score, great. User score is definitely where it should be. Game players should be the ones voting for like what game of the year is.
Right.
And I don't know.
And we see that what is it like the awards game awards like I think what is it like 10% or less the game like the actual
users,
the users like it's like weighted less than 10%, which just goes to show you how much commercial interests are superseding the actual quality of the game.
I personally would be very disappointed because especially lately I've been seeing more and more threads, people going back and looking at Elden Ring from like developer standpoints and being like, what the fuck happened in this game? Mm-hmm. Like I remember I sent you the link the other day of a person in the industry has been doing 3D design for like 30-40 years since the Unreal Tournament days, and they looked at Elden Ring and they were like, yo, this person's crown is like unnecessarily crazy tries for no reason.
Right.
You've got models where like if you take away like parts of their armor, they're fully fleshed out faces underneath and they're fully done figures, and it's like, but that never comes off. There's no animation or change to this character. There's no variant of this character where you see their face and it's behind like a mask, and their face is fully modeled and textured and rendered. Like, what the fuck?
And you have
that's like housekeeping 101.
Right.
And it's like it's the same Souls shit as always, but like in a big open field now. Like you still don't have direction, you still have the same design as the Souls world. And the problem is the Souls games are very good at having tight corridors and narrow areas with good design. You can't just throw that into a field because then it's just like whatever. I don't know. There's just dudes everywhere, I guess. Like you don't get that. You get it in the dungeons. You get it in some areas. Mm-hmm. I don't know. The more I watch people talk about Elden Ring, there's the people who are like, I have a critical opinion about this game and there's a lot of problems with it, but it's all right overall, or it's even good. Mm-hmm. And then you get people who are like, it's a fucking Souls game. It's a 10 out of 10. How did you have not played a Souls game? Get fucking good. And you're like, okay, great, thanks.
I mean, I played it. I just didn't find it like that interesting. I think I got maybe like halfway through it, and like I was like, this just isn't grabbing my interest. I don't know. No. It just seemed like
Well, I mean, like there's threads where people were like, hey, you get out of the first area and there's this giant tree boss that fucks your shit up. Mm-hmm. That kind of sucks. And then like the Souls players were like, yeah, it just means you have to get better. And it's like, that's not a good way to teach the player that they want to get better.
Right.
Mega Man X does a great job of teaching me I want to be better by showing me a stronger character and saying you can be like him by the end of this game.
Sure.
And then incentivizing me to get stronger. Walking out of a door and getting one shot by a tree who hits me through a wall because of clipping issues doesn't inspire me to be better at this game. It inspires me to get a better game. Like, holy shit. Like, I would never, like, if I picked up a game and I immediately got murdered like that, I'd be like, oh, wow, that's awful. And I'm talking, like, you even saw, like, attacks through walls hitting you in positions you couldn't be hidden because you were in cover. Mm-hmm. Like, bosses with dumb shit like that. Dogs that, like, one-hit you because they accidentally do infinitely multiplying damage and they never patched it because, whoops.
Right.
And how many times did we Souls fans were like, Elden Ring is perfect the way that it is. It's designed the way it is on purpose. We're not going to make exceptions for players who are weak or bad. We're not giving you guys quest logs. We're not giving you guys map markers with where the NPCs are. You just need to remember where they are. Get a fucking notepad. And then like 3 weeks later, they patched all that in. And Elden Ring people were screaming like, no, he caved in to like the bad players. And it was like, he said it was intended. The patches reflect the status of the game in alpha and beta when those features were there for people to beta test. The features didn't make it into the final game because they had to work on them, and then they added them in later. Mm-hmm. This was literally his intended design, and they're like, "No, it's too easy now." And it was like, "Oh my fucking god, with you people!" I hate that community. Like, it's just they're like the worst example of a community of people who just rally behind their product regardless of what it is because brand name.
You're not wrong.
It drives me nuts.
You're not
Play
wrong.
Sonic Frontiers. Play it for yourself. See if you like it. It looks like, dude, Sonic Frontiers was wild because every trailer they showed us got better than the previous
It was just
trailer.
like the weirdest fucking marketing I have ever seen for a game.
It was like,
in my 40 years of existence.
They were like, if we set the expectations for this game in the gutter, then it's nowhere to go but up, and people will enjoy the new footage more.
Right. It's like
shit. It was
playing
so
4D chess. It's wild stuff. I don't
know.
even get it.
Like, Sonic Frontiers, I mean, you put Elden Ring in there for Game of the Year, sure. It sold a lot. It got good ratings from critics, from whoever the fuck all these people are. Sonic Frontiers can go in there because it's got a higher user score than that game. Mm-hmm. You put in God of War, which actually I'm hearing good things about, but I am hearing a lot of people in the devs circles complain that it's very handholdy with its puzzles. Like, I guess it's got the same sort of problem Horizon Zero Dawn had, where like by default, if you walk into a puzzle and you look at it for like 8 seconds, one of the characters will be like, perhaps if you push that block into there, then you can drop that on it and it will solve the puzzle. And you're like, yeah, I guess that's the solution. I guess it does that a lot.
Right.
And to my understanding, it's an accessibility feature that is on by default. And that's what's causing the problem, is that it's just on by default. So like people who need the help, it's already on, but people who don't need the help, it's already on, and I think a lot more people don't need the help than need the help. Mm-hmm. So I guess maybe it should have started default off, but that seems like a minor gripe, I guess.
Or at least give like a quick button to press, like, turn off tips, and then
yeah, that's pretty much what it seems like it is. It's just trying to make sure people don't get stuck, and it's it's a little too aggressive on the hand holding. But I guess other than that, the combat is like smooth like butter, and everything feels great. Everything about it is supposed to be fantastic. That's the only gripe I've heard in like any circles that I've seen.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, we've got Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It was supposed to be really good. We had, I personally would put either Tunic or Turtles or both in that category, but obviously they're not going to get in that category. What else did you even put in Game of the Year? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I've still seen people arguing for a Shredder's Revenge entry there. I would love to see it. I'd love to see him sweep it. Just fucking, just to upset everyone.
I think Turtles is absolutely in that category because it really feels like the pinnacle of like what a Super Nintendo game would have been in the day, but done today. Right. That doesn't happen. You have rose tinted glasses. Everything seems like it was better when we were kids. Sure. You don't get that experience again as an adult often. Right. So it was wild to get that. And Tunic did a similar thing for me in terms of like reliving like an old school Zelda experience. Mm-hmm. Like, both of those games did crazy things this year. It was very surprising. Let me see. What do we have a list of what the Game Awards even has yet?
They're going to release this probably tomorrow, if I had to hazard a guess.
What did we put up for Golden Joysticks? Had their list up,
but they didn't have a single Game of the Year yet. They were kind of delaying that, weren't they?
Waiting, right? Yeah, I think they were waiting. I mean, we can look at like what they had. Like, their best indie game did contain Cult of the Lamb, Tunic, Rollerdrome, Neon White, Teardown, Dwarf Romantic. Multiplayer had Elden Ring and Turtles. Turtles was in multiplayer. Mm-hmm. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, Lego Star Wars. Best Nintendo game looks like it was Xenoblade, Pokemon, Kirby, Splatoon, Live Alive, and Nintendo Switch Sports. I'm pretty sure that's Xenoblade or Pokemon, maybe. Pokemon was well received, but not that well received, I don't think.
Arceus?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Arceus, I'm sorry.
PC Game of the Year, none of those games exist. Mm-hmm. Neon White, I guess. Cool. PlayStation has Horizon Forbidden West. Oh, Stray. That was one I was missing. Stray is a pretty strong contender because Stray was really, really good. It was short, right? But it was good.
Yeah.
Horizon Forbidden West. I don't think that beats God of War, but it's there.
I think it'll be in there. I think it's just more of like there isn't much else to put in the list this year.
I mean, how do we compete? How does God of War and Sonic Frontiers and Xenoblade stack up against Halo Infinite?
Is that even like nominated? It can't be nominated this year. It was last year's.
It's Xbox Game of the Year at the Golden Joysticks, apparently. So it's in some kind of contention.
Maybe. I just remember it coming out late. It was last year's Gamers Choice Awards
or something. Yeah.
And it was like, oh boy.
I think Game Awards and Golden Joysticks have wildly different ideas about what time frames they fall into.
That's fair. Fair.
I think Golden Joysticks happens before Halo Infinite would have been considered last year. So for them, it's like a new thing this year or something.
Right.
I don't know.
I know, like Elden Ring. I mean, that's definitely going to be. I mean, we know it's going to be nominated.
Yeah, of course.
God of War, we know it's going to be nominated. I think Horizon Forbidden West makes sense. Shredder's Revenge is just one of those weird ones. Like, I think it makes sense. I don't know if it has enough commercial backing or widespread appeal.
Right. That brings us right back to like the sort of like marketing and or like what you call it. It's not going to get picked unless it's like something everyone's talking about, right?
Sure.
Because you and I both know the main reason that we're going to see Elden Ring there is because people who are big fans of Elden Ring will not shut up about Elden Ring.
Right.
But if I go look right now on Metacritic, user and Metacritic scores for Shredder's Revenge on PC were 84 and 8.6, 85 and 8.5. The Switch version was 87 and 8.2. The Xbox One version is 87, 8.1. The user score for this game blows out Elden Ring on every category. And it's green across the board on Metascore, too. So, like, should this be a Game of the Year contender? Or does the user score not actually matter?
I think it should be at least a contender.
That's what right. Because that's what it comes down to, is, like, if you think, like, Elden Ring should get it because it's got a 96 on Metacritic on critic side, and it's got, like, 70s on the user side, what does that matter? A handful of people who get paid to play video games that we've never even heard of, half that list, they liked that game?
Right.
Okay. So then Game of the Year is just like a popularity contest for people we don't know.
Yeah, and honestly, I think
how's that Game of the Year?
Now that you brought that up, I really think that just looks like ballot stuffing to me, with there's like just no-name people, writing reviews for it.
Right. Like, how's that Game of the Year? Like, if user scores for Shredder's Revenge, based on the people that played it, that Metacritic did. I mean, what is, like, if I look up like Steam, what does Steam say about Shredder's Revenge? Was it on Steam?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Let me see. Shredder's Revenge on Steam. Shredder's Revenge on Steam is very positive, 93%. It's 1 point higher than Elden Ring. So do we put this up there too?
I think
like,
so.
How is that, like, the only place Elden Ring beats this game is like on raw sales because they pumped a bunch of money into selling it. And it has slightly higher Metacritic reviews.
It got that same like weird viral marketing that like Bird Box got on Netflix, like, or it was just like one of those things like everyone started talking about it, and then all of a sudden it was like popular, and it was just like one of those things where it's like this is like questionably successful without any merit. I would.
Well, remember they were like, oh, George R.R. Martin is writing for this game, and people were like, oh, holy shit! And then, what did that even do? Was there? It just felt like another Souls game, right? All the lore was still tied to like items and random shit. You still didn't have any idea what was happening unless you really dug into everything. What did George R.R. Martin even do here? Name things?
I don't know.
It was one of the, like, they marketed it like it was going to be like this groundbreaking narrative experience, and it wasn't. It was the same as every other Souls game.
Right.
It was like, okay, cool. Like, I don't know. It didn't feel like that guy's inclusion did anything, but be like a marketing piece.
Yep.
Well,
I mean,
even just recently, like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I saw a commercial with like some celebrity girl being like something Elden Ring, and then they showed footage of Elden Ring, and I was like, they're still doing commercials for this game? Holy fuck! The game's been out for a year. Like, you can tell that they're still doing like the we're staying relevant, and that's it.
Right.
Oh my god.
And
Yeah, it's gonna get a Game of the Year version next. If it wins Game of the Year, it'll get a Game of the Year version in March where it won't have any new content. It'll just be like the Game of the Year.
yeah, I
Like
can
it won Game of
see
the Year.
like Shredder's Revenge being both nominated for Game of the Year and Indie Game of the Year.
Yeah.
And it's like in the indie section, it's going to be that Tunic and like 4 digital Devolver games. So
Yeah, because what was it?
like Cult of
there
the
was another.
Lamb was
Cult of
was
the
kind
Lamb
of
will probably be in there.
was big.
Stray might be in the indie category.
I could see
depending
Stray
on
in the indie category
where they
too.
draw it.
That was a
Yeah.
wildly popular game too. I mean, we could even like make an argument for that being Game of the Year as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just I'll be disappointed with the gaming community if Elden Ring wins, but I guess it's not even our fault because it would be the random people who get to have 90% of the weight at the award show.
Right.
It would just really suck for it to be like, what was the Game of the Year that year? And it was like it was an open world Souls game where they didn't do anything, like they just took all the things in Souls and put them out in the open world.
Sure.
They didn't make any changes to the formula to make it better for being an open world. They didn't apply any of the strengths of Souls games to an open world formula. They just fucking vomited it all over the middle of a field, and they were like, "And George R.R. Martin wrote this."
I mean,
And if you don't
honestly,
like it,
you could make an argument for so many indie games that came out. It's like indie games had like a stronger showing this year than AAA titles did, hands down.
dude, it's been that way for a few years. It feels like
I agree.
every year it feels like there's several indie games that are in contention for like best game of that year.
Yeah, It Takes Two won last year. I mean, that's a small studio that EA published.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, it could go to anyone. I don't think Elden Ring is as safe as people think it is. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see. You know, when the awards come around, it could really honestly go either way. But
I feel like Elden Ring getting Game of the Year is video games version of the Red Wave. I'll believe it when I see it. What was the one? I'm looking it up real quick. I think, yeah, the year that Undertale came out, it beat Ocarina of Time in Game FAQ's best game ever poll, which is like impossible because like the people who are big Zelda fans always rally around Ocarina of Time winning it every year because it was like a thing they won every year.
Yeah, honestly,
Ocarina of Time was like game of the year for like fucking 20 years on Game FAQs until Undertale like took it down.
Nice. Honestly, I think Ocarina of Time is starting to finally see that Final Fantasy treatment where it's like people need to shut the fuck up. And that's just not necessarily my views on it, but it just seems like the overwhelming thing is like people need to shut the fuck up about Ocarina of Time. It's not that good. And
Oh yeah.
Final Fantasy started getting that treatment, I would say probably like 5 or 6 years ago, where it's like, all right, people need to shut the fuck up about Final Fantasy VII. It wasn't that good. Again, not my opinion one way or the other, but
Sure.
I don't think Ocarina of Time was that good, to be honest, but that's just me.
What was a really good video to watch about that? I don't know if I ever showed it to you. Ego Raptor, Aaron Hansen from Game Grumps. He did like a 30-minute breakdown of Ocarina of Time and why a lot of it's bad. And
I think we might have watched it or at least
it's
talked about it.
Yeah, and it's so true because like it's one of those things where it's like I loved Ocarina at the time, and I think Ocarina did a lot of stuff. It was groundbreaking for like the 3D Zelda. It was the first 3D Zelda. It did Z targeting. It figured out a lot of things that needed to be done in 3D Zelda space.
Oh, we've had that conversation before where just in general, like the N64 first-party titles did a lot for future titles.
Yes. Mario 64, Zelda, and a few others were like pivotal games about creating 3D space and rules for 3D space. Like Mario 64, you had the thing called the shadow drop, where like when you jump, there's a shadow under your character. You almost never needed that in 2D games, or it was rare because for what? You were moving up and then back down, and you could see your character the whole time. But in a 3D space with a depth that's not always easy to communicate to the player, that drop shadow would let you know that like if I jumped over a ledge and then I could see my shadow, I could use that as like a way to guide myself.
Right.
And then things like Ocarina of Time invented Z targeting, which every fucking 3D game on the planet uses third like angle targeting with like a lock-on thing now. Literally set the bar for that. And that's great that it did that stuff. But like at the same time, holy shit, Ocarina, like you wait for everything. You wait to open treasure chests, you wait to open doors, you wait for all the encounters, you wait for like this and that. There's constantly waiting. You've got like going back and forth between places sometimes, like having to go back here and then play the song and then go back here and then play the song and then go back here. Like if you want to go from place to place and then back, you have to like play the song, go to the place, run to where you want to be, do the thing, run, like, then play the song. It puts you back at this other place. You can't go straight to a lot of places. You have to, like, know the closest place and song there, and then run there from there still. And it's like, oh man. And then there was like all the like combat stuff. A lot of enemies just turtle up and put up like a shield or like a block, and you have to like wait for the opening. And then when like they go to attack, you poke them.
Right.
And then you stand there and wait again. And then they kind of circle around you a little bit, and then finally they like go to swing, and then you like poke them again. That's not hard. It just takes like a good 2 minutes. You know, the Lizalfos, they show up and the boss music plays, and you're like, oh fuck, Lizalfos. But then it's like you stand there like this, and then they stand there like that, and then you wait for them to like, and then you like, and then they go down, and you're like, okay. Like, it's not, there's nothing difficult about that. It just feels like it's difficult because you have to sit there and wait. And if you fuck up, then it feels like, oh no, I fucked up. Now I have to wait again. And it feels bad. So like, that's what makes that fight feel like it's bad. And there's so many fights like that. The wolves are like that. The Lizalfos are like that. There's so many enemies that put up a shield and wait for and you have to wait for like the opening. The clams do that under the water with the hook shot. Like, there's a lot of like artificial difficulty buried behind everything taking forever.
Very true.
And it's one of those things you probably don't notice as a kid, or, you know, game dev critics weren't really a thing. You only had the industry and that was it. And you didn't have Twitter, you didn't have Facebook, you didn't have social media. People weren't making YouTube videos about Ocarina of Time's development. So you had no,
it was a product of its time. You didn't have the retrospective that we have right now too. Cause it was like it was all new. So, I mean, like, to be fair, like, the developers, this is all new to developers, and it was all new to us. Like, just seeing 3D graphics was just mind blowing enough that we didn't notice like the weights.
Well, of course.
Or all the padding and stuff.
You have a good time playing the game or whatever. But like, if you sit here now in the year of our Lord 2022, almost in the next year, and you look at me with a straight face and say, the best Zelda game of all time, definitely Ocarina of Time. And I go, not Breath of the Wild, and you go, nope. And then I go, not Link Between Worlds, and you go, nope. What the fuck are you talking about?
Right.
Like, I understand if one of those two isn't your bread or butter, because I know that some people didn't really like Breath of the Wild's divergence from the path of Zelda.
I don't mind it.
Like,
it's just not. I don't think it's the best. I think it's okay. I think Wind Waker's probably up there with probably one of my favorites. I don't think. I don't know if is it the best. That's not for me to determine.
I could not. I don't know if I could take someone who said Ocarina of Time is better than Link Between Worlds with a straight face. Like, it's not that Ocarina is bad. But Link Between Worlds, to me,
better.
From my understanding of the Zelda franchise as a whole in general, from having played a whole bunch of them, that game is almost like the epitome of what a Zelda game should be. It does so many things right. I don't even know what gripe you could have with Link Between Worlds.
Yeah, and honestly, I am more partial towards like Link Between Worlds and like Link to the Past.
Like Link to the Past.
That just like that over top, the top down look. It's just I love that, and it did.
I'll go on record and say that I
love playing on the 3DS.
I think Link's Awakening on the Switch was more fun than Ocarina of Time. I had more fun with that game because that feels more like a traditional Zelda to me.
Sure.
Like, Ocarina of Time's biggest gripe for a lot of people was like, they call it like Ego Raptor called it the Disney trip, where it's like, you know, you open up Ocarina of Time and the game is like, welcome to Ocarina of Time. If you want to leave the village, you got to get those 3 things first. Okay. Go get those 3 things. Now you got to go do the boss. Okay, do the boss. Now you're out in the open world, but the open world is mostly locked unless you go to the castle. You go to the castle. Okay, the castle lady's like, go to the village or something. Go up the mountain. Like, okay, I guess I'll go do that. But at any point, you can't diverge. Like, you can't just leave the forest without the items. You have to get those things first. You have to do the first dungeon first. Then you leave. You get out in the open world, but the beach is locked because you don't have a horse to jump the gate or whatever. The village is there, but you can't really do anything in the village. The graveyard doesn't do anything right now. The mountain is locked by a gate, and you need a letter to get in. So you have to go to the town. So you go to the town, and the lady's like, well, go to the castle. You go to the castle. The lady's like, here's a letter, let you up the mountain. Now you can go up the mountain. You still can't do the Zora, because the Zora won't react to you. Like, you couldn't do it in any order. You couldn't go to other places. You really can't explore that world. You literally have to do a guided tour of it. You have to do beat by beat what they tell you to do until I think, like, you're an adult. And then even as an adult, like, you've got some selection on what you can do and when, in terms of, like, the medallions. Yeah, I mean, and Majora's Mask has the same problem. You have to hit the 4 things in order. You have to literally do them in the right pattern. And meanwhile, like, a game like Link Between Worlds or Link's Awakening, like, Link's Awakening has the 8 dungeons in order, but, like, Link Between Worlds was just, like, go. You could go wherever you wanted in that game. You could get all the items almost immediately if you raised up some money.
That and you could rent the items and just go to whatever you want.
You just go do anything.
Yeah, they did a brilliant job of that game.
It broke up the Zelda formula because unlike most Zelda games where like Ocarina where it was like walk in, I can only explore half this dungeon. The other half of the dungeon is all hidden behind doors that have an eye that I have to shoot.
Hmm.
And then one of the rooms gives me the bow, and now I can do the rest of the dungeon. And now that I got the bow, the boss is going to be a dude who's weak to the bow. I get it. And you
Right.
do that for every dungeon. Link Between Worlds was fucking smart about it. They were like, all these boss fights don't really require any items, or if they do, they require like one item, and you can kind of just do it. The item didn't come from the dungeon, so the dungeon's treasures were generally treasures. You didn't have to be like, oh, I'm in an ice place and there's frozen doors. I bet there's a fire rod in the chest in the middle, and it was a fire rod in the chest in
Right.
the middle. No, it was like the chest would have like upgrades for your sword, or like a better shield, or armor, or heart pieces, or big things that you could do stuff with.
Mhm.
And you never knew what you were getting because it wasn't like the dungeon was like, welcome to the spider dungeon, and there's big threads everywhere. I hope you can find some big thread cutters. And then it was like, oh man, how am I gonna cut these threads? And then in the middle of the dungeon, it was like fucking bolt cutters, and you were like, oh wow, the bolt cutter
cutters.
item.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's the,
Right.
that's how all those dungeons were designed. Which it like again in the 1990s, that's smart dungeon design. It's cohesive. It makes you have a through line for that dungeon where it feels like this makes sense. That doesn't hold up 30 years later.
Sure.
We know better. We've got better design options now. So it's not like Ocarina is a bad game, period. It's just that if you look at that game and then a game from 30 years in the future, like now, it's not a fair contest because we have much better concepts and understandings of game design. That game isn't going to be beating modern Zelda games most of the time anymore. And there's nothing, it's not like a bad thing.
Sure.
It can't be game of the year forever.
Right.
Eventually, something like Undertale is going to overthrow it. And when Undertale overthrows Ocarina of Time, it was for good reason. It's because a bunch of people finally were like, wow, I guess Ocarina really isn't that great.
Well,
I
not
don't
only
even
that,
think
but you
Game
have like
IQ
a
is
new
anymore.
generation of people that just never played Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, that too. But that's the other problem too, is like how many people are going back and being like Ocarina of Time and they look at it and they watch it for a little bit and they're like, why do I have to wait for everything?
Mhm.
This sucks. And then you're like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's play Sonic Frontiers. I know that's the thing we're on, and I think it was supposed to be a quick headline, and we went off the fucking rails.
Well, I
on
think
my
what
end.
we're going to do instead of talking about the Game Awards later, I think this is kind of
We
concludes.
just
Yeah, I think we're
Yeah.
good there. Anyway, that was the quickest headline I think we've ever had. No, I'm kidding.
yeah.
So let's move on. Sony is reportedly partnering with NCSoft, makers of Guild Wars, to make a Horizon Zero Dawn MMORPG. So we know Sony is kind of throwing a bunch of shit at the wall and see what sticks as far as live service games. Obviously, this is probably going to be one. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do here. And the people are typically talking about how, it's like, these games aren't going to be successful. Sony only needs one to be successful. They're going to try a bunch of different things until they see what works.
Yeah.
I think a Horizon Zero Dawn, where a world is already fleshed out, there's already a lot of lore, there's already a lot of history, probably not a bad idea. And if they can incorporate MMORPG mechanics smartly, flesh the world out good enough, I think it would be not a bad idea. Time will tell. So eventually, with Sony's plans for releasing all these live service games, one's going to be a hit.
Yeah.
We see what Final Fantasy XIV has done for Square, and a lot of times it's saved the day for their financials.
Yeah, dude.
So if Sony has one or two of those games go off, they don't need them all. They don't need like the 9 or 10 that they plan on it. I don't expect 9 or 10 of them to stick around. I expect one or two, probably two at most, maybe a third if they play their cards right. But yeah, I'd be interested to see how this does. And I would expect to probably see in the next year, like one or two more announcements as far as live service games out of Sony, especially with their acquisition of Bungie, who, as much as we bitch about them here, they know what they're doing as far as pulling in money for live service games.
Absolutely. They're very good at monetizing, that's for sure.
Right. So, I don't know. Do you have anything to throw in about that one?
I mean, I'm always for more MMORPGs. I only really play Final Fantasy 14.
Sure.
But I like the concept, and as I've gotten into, like, I don't want to say older age, but like as I've gotten older, like late 20s into the 30s, my favorite thing in video games is to play with my friends now.
Same.
I still enjoy like a good single player experience, and I still enjoy like a good RPG or a turn based or like a tactical game. But there's something about playing with your friends and being able to like just get on at night and like hang out with your buddies and like and socialize. That's it's been a nice change of pace from like when we were younger and it was like we'd hit card shops or we'd go like hit malls together and that's how you would hang out with your friends. It's like it's kind of cool to be able to just get on and hang out with your friends online.
Sure.
So if we can get like another good game, like something like FF14 style, if they take any lessons from any game, I swear to God, please look at that one. I'd be happy with them doing that, and I think I'd probably give it a shot. I'm not a Horizon Zero Dawn or Horizon Forbidden West player per se. I've never really touched either of them. I can't say that like the world interests me, but it does seem like a good world to build this out of.
Right, and that's I don't know too much about the game myself. It looks great, and everyone who I've talked to who's played it loves it.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything bad yet.
It's been one of those things where I've almost played it a couple times, but I have yet to get around to it.
You know what's funny? And I want to circle around to this, but the only people I heard complain about Horizon Zero Dawn when it came out in March or whatever was Elden Ring players bitching about how the game was too like helpful to players. That was the only people I saw that hated it. Do you remember that? We talked about that actually.
Kind of. It was just people getting overly defensive about.
Well, yeah, because like Horizon Zero Dawn came out and people were like, "It's a good game," and then people were like, "Oh, it's not as good as Elden Ring," and then like they started putting up pictures of like the screen and being like, "Look, it has a marker for where to go, and it has text that tells me what to do next, and like it has things that tell me like a map and a health radar, and like it has things." And then people started making memes about like if Ubisoft made Elden Ring and it had like all these extra things on the screen, and it was like, okay, I'm sorry that the game only tells you like, "Welcome to the game, go die." Like, okay,
right.
Well, turns out people actually like those things, and what's funny
is then Elden Ring added it in a patch, all that shit.
And then they added it in a patch, yeah. And then people were like, people were saying even with the new God of War, they were like, oh, it's kind of annoying that it's really handholdy with the puzzles, or like in Horizon Forbidden West, she would look at a puzzle after 15 seconds or so and be like, I wonder if I can get that thing running again, and it's supposed to clue you into how to do the puzzle. And it turns out the reason why these games do this, you can see developers talk about it on Twitter. They mentioned that like, on the whole, people who play games are just kind of dumb, and not like gamers who like play games all the time, but like a lot of people casually pick up a game and then just have no idea what they're doing. Like they were saying like in God of War, they're like, oh, it's so stupid that like if I catch on fire, one of the characters will be like, you're on fire, and it's like, no, you don't understand. A lot of game players won't even realize it because they're so into like playing the game and like mashing buttons and doing attacks, they literally won't realize they're on fire, and the game will have to straight up tell them they're on fire because they won't know. Like me and you play video games all the time, and a lot of people in our category play video games all the time, but there's also a lot of people who just don't, and they have no idea what's happening in their game unless the game tells them. You get people where they do these white paper tests. Like developers talk about what's called white paper testing, which is like bringing in family and friends and being like, hey, play this section of my game and I'm not helping you at all, so just play this section of the game and let me know what you think. And these people were like, yeah, we'll do the white paper tests, and people literally won't know where to go. They won't see doors, they won't see stairs, they won't see exits. You'll give them a hammer, and then you'll have like a big rock that's like in front of a door, and they'll be like, I wish I could get out of here. And they'll wander the room for 15 minutes, and we'll just kind of peek our head in and be like, hey, you can use the hammer to smash the rock. And they're like, oh yeah. And it's like, okay, most gamers would pick that up in a heartbeat, right? Like you break a thing, or you make a thing, or you do a thing. But a lot of people really don't put that together. They really are bad at that sort of situational assessment. So yeah, is it kind of annoying sometimes when a dude in the game tells you you're on fire while you're on fire? Yeah, but it's probably helping like 8 players for every one person that it annoys or whatever.
Sure.
So
should there be an option to turn that off? Yes, but
yeah. Well, it usually is an option.
Sure.
It's just I think they leave it on by default because more people need it than don't need it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But and then we see people like the Elden Ring players who are like, oh, the game, offers me any kind of advice about where to go next. I hate it. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But like, there's a reason why Elden Ring sold like hotcakes and had high critical scores from these random people. But the user score is under 8.0. It's in the 7s.
Buyer's
because
remorse.
a lot of people picked it up, played it, and were like, I don't actually think this is really for me. This is asking a lot more of me than I want to put into a game.
Sure.
Like, and then they put it down. And this is why we get where we get with that kind of game. This is why, despite being one of probably the best selling Souls game of all time with like broad appeal across everybody, it turns out people didn't really like it that much.
I would say that if there was like an Elden Ring sequel, I don't think it's going to sell as well as the first one.
No. I think a lot of people would have gotten there like, oh, I know better than to buy that game the first time. The Souls players would enjoy it, and the Souls players would buy it, and that's great.
And
that's
they're allowed to enjoy it.
Should be for.
I don't have a problem.
But that doesn't mean that, like, you know, if me and you convinced every person in America to pick up a copy of Tunic, a lot of people are going to hate that game. A lot of people are going to be like, this sucks, and they're going to get lost, and they're going to get stuck, and they're going to put that game down. It's not made for casual gamers because they don't hold your hand at all.
Right.
That game really doesn't. It's very minimalist about what it does. And for people like me, or maybe you, solving that puzzle and figuring out what to do next is the intrigue. We want to figure out what to do next. A lot of people do not want to do that. Like, I have 2 kids, and I can tell you, my gaming time is not that, I don't have a lot. I have a few hours a night usually. And I would feel terrible getting on for a night and spending all night doing nothing.
Sure.
Like, and then just being like, well, I burned my gaming night, I guess.
Here's what people don't understand is like the games that are handholdy, they are there because it behooves them to sell games.
Yeah, well, it respects your time more than any other game, even if it does patronize you a little bit. It's at least a game that you can sit down and make progress no matter what.
Sure.
And you feel about that.
Games to make money require a broad appeal. To have that broad appeal, you need to appeal to players of different skill sets, players of different ages, to play. And if the options are there to turn off the tutorials and you don't want that challenge, you want a challenge, turn them the fuck off. Problem solved.
You don't see. That's why Souls games don't sell outside of Souls games.
Right.
Like you don't see any other thing in the Souls niche that really sells, and it's because of that. Souls just has a brand name attached to it, and it's got like a nice following behind it. But like, you don't really see other Souls games ever, and when you do, it's games like Mortal Shell or like Wukong, where they're like games you've never heard of by people you've never heard of, and they maybe do all right, and then you never hear from them again. Like, there's a reason why most people don't want that experience, or if they want that experience, they want it in limited capacity, and those people seek out that type of game. The people who seek out, you know, the Souls games are the Souls players already. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like Metroidvania. A lot of Metroidvania players who love Metroid Dread was a phenomenal game. I do not expect that to be a mass appeal game. A lot of people who picked up Metroid Dread would get lost, and they would get frustrated, and they would put it down. You know, I love Metroidvanias, and I love Metroid Dread. Same with like Hollow Knight. It's a fantastic game, and for all we know, Silksong will have that problem. Silksong will get so much like hype and demand behind it, and everybody memeing about like when Silksong, and then when it finally comes out, it drops on Game Pass, and everybody can play it for free or something. And a good 20% of the people who play it are going to be like, this fucking sucks. Because they're going to get lost. Or they're going to get killed in a fight. In the first 2-3 fights, they're going to get murdered. And they're going to be like, God, why do people play this game? I don't know where to go. Everything hurts. Like, I keep dying. I lose my shit when I die. What do people like about this game? And they're going to just put it down. And the game's going to end up with, like, a 95 from critics and, like, an 8 from users because it got more... It left its intended audience, so to speak.
Sure.
I think Elden Ring did that 1,000,000%. Left its intended audience, and
overall user score suffered because of it. Because a lot of buyers
user score,
right,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. You're a living, breathing example of it, right?
Sure. I'd probably give that game a 6 out of 10, maybe a high. High 6.
I did not buy that game because I would have found 100 more things I hate about it, and I would be sitting here reading off a fucking essay. So I didn't even bother because I already know.
Yeah.
I played Bloodborne like probably halfway through, and I see the appeal of that type of game, and I also see the reason why it does not leave its orbit.
Sure.
But yeah,
fair enough.
Get me to circle back around to that. Sony, please make a good MMORPG with Horizon.
All right, so we got IndieWorld. We dropped a couple days ago, so we can talk about that too. See if we can correlate that to Elden Ring too.
My big gripe with this IndieWorld announcement was near the end they did like one of those like slapdash, like we're gonna show you like 5 games in a quick thing, and they shoved Inscription in there,
right?
Like it wasn't anything. I was like, you motherfuckers! Like,
that's what drives me nuts. Like the last, like the best content in the last 2 indie worlds I've seen were in the sizzle reels.
And the
Like,
sizzle reels.
God damn it, man.
We had to sit there and pause the sizzle reel and go game by game and look them up. And like all the games were like bangers.
Right.
And we had to go
So
look them up individually.
they led off with a game called Venba. And I don't want to shit on the game's developers' hard work. They did, but like, why is this not in the sizzle reel versus Inscription?
Right.
I'm baffled. Maybe it's because Devolver Digital has a couple other games in there, so they were just like, Inscription's been out for a while. Why not put another digital Devolver game at the forefront? And they did that with Pepper Grinder.
Yeah.
But it's just, I question what they put in those sizzle reels a lot.
Oh, totally.
But yeah, so they announced Venba. They moved on to a couple other games. It wasn't like, again, this wasn't like the heaviest hitter of indie directs, but there's some good stuff in there if you dig. And I think Pepper Grinder, again, digital Devolver game, I think that'll be great. I'll end up buying it physical. Coffee Talk's getting a sequel here. There's a game called Oni to the Road to the Mightiest Oni. That looks like it might be pretty good. Definitely like the style of it. And then Desta, this is like a weird one. It was like, I don't know if it's like a dodgeball game with like weird narrative. It looks like dodgeball,
yeah.
But it's like a very narrative driven game. I'll be interested to see what that does. I might peek at that. Botany Manor, there's Dordogny. Am I pronouncing that right? Dordogny. I make it to Dordogny. Bob. So, Once Upon a Jester. I mean, Rogue Legacy 2. It's good to see that's coming to the Switch. I really enjoyed the first one. I'll probably grab that. That's actually out now. That dropped the same day. Blanc. That looks really cool. It's like
we've seen that one. Yeah.
The white deer and the fox. It's a very it's black and white, but very, very white. I wouldn't recommend playing it at night because it's going to burn your retinas out. WrestleQuest looks interesting. It's definitely like a parody. It almost reminds me of like Golf Story, but like with like wrestling characters, where it's just kind of got like that Final Fantasy, or not Final Fantasy, RPG taste with like, some retro style graphics. And I guess it looks like they're actually using the names like Macho Man Randy Savage, Andre the Giant, and tons of other icons. So they're actually using like the names of like old WWF stars. So I'm not like a big into like wrestling now, but like old school wrestling, fucking cool as shit. I miss like the characters like Macho Man Randy Savage did were peak. So, but that looks really good. Wobble Dogs. I'm really surprised that this took so long to get to the Switch. My daughter's a big fan of this one. I would check this one out too, especially if you have kids. It's actually really cool because it's like a genetic combining game, I guess you could say, where you can breed these Wobble Dogs for like certain characteristics and get like new Wobble Dogs. It's bizarre, but yeah, I would definitely check that one out. World of Horror looks pretty cool if you're into like old ass like Mac games, like black and white monitor Mac games. Definitely check that out. What else do we have here? Curse of the Sea Rats. That was probably in the sizzle reel because I didn't really see that. Inscription, of course. I would definitely hella check that out. And then a little to the left, and I think like the big one here was Sports Story getting announced, the sequel to Golf Story. It looks like you'll be able to do a couple other sports related things in this other than just golf. But I'll be interested in seeing this. It has like dungeon exploring, all kinds of like weird stuff. So I guess fishing, you can do some fishing, you can do some soccer, obviously golf, maybe some cricket, it looks like. But yeah, I really enjoyed the original Golf Story. I would definitely recommend this one too. This obviously was like the heavy hitter of the show. That's why they waited until last to announce it. And that'll be coming out this year in December. So add it to your wish lists. It's coming. But that's really all we have for it. Like again, it wasn't like a heavy hitter indie direct, and I've been kind of like one of those advocates of like, oh, this is kind of where like the best of the Switch games are.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But this one, it's just kind of mid. I hate to say it, but yeah, mid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at the point where like every time we get any kind of Nintendo Direct that doesn't have Silk Song in it, it's like, okay. Sure. It's not fair to them because they're putting out some cool games and they're putting up good products and stuff. It's just like, holy shit, please tell us about Silk Song already.
Right.
They know people are looking for it. They've known for a long time.
Yeah, I didn't even see like the memes going around this time with like, oh, Silk Song Wen with the clown face.
Yeah. I almost feel
Because
like people
people
are
are
just
just kind
kind
of
of
like,
giving up on it.
right. I'm kind of disappointed. Disappointed internet.
Right.
So
Oh man. Um, I
uh,
can't. I still can't believe they shoved inscription in there like that. Oh man, that's
right.
such a good game. So unique. Like you won't find another game like that. Like it's a
Mm,
combination card game with like a horror mystery thing going on.
right. Yeah, it's not like
It's
you're just
so
like
funny.
you're just playing like it's not like a Magic Arena where you're just playing Magic. Like you play the card game, you explore this like room you're locked in with this weirdo.
Mhm.
The characters in the cards are alive, like the Stoat. Then they're trying to help you
Yeah,
get out because they're all captive in there too. Um, and then there's like puzzle boxes. It's almost like there's like an escape room element to it, for the lack of better
yeah.
terms.
Ton of cool shit in that game.
Hmm.
Really wild to see it get stuck in a sizzle reel.
Yeah. But again, I think I really have strong suspicions because that Pepper Grinder being like a newer Devolver Digital, they're just like, just chuck it in the sizzle
Yeah,
reel because it's already done what it needs to
they
do
were
as
more
far as
trying to
sales.
more trying to drive the new game than
Right.
capitalize on the old one coming over.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fair.
Whew, get a little tired here. But yeah, so that's pretty much what we have for Indie World. I guess we can just kind of jump into what Twitter's been doing lately here. Obviously, we saw Elon Musk buy Twitter, uh, going from a $44 billion acquisition to what's now related. That's now about a what, 8 billion.
Yeah.
So we've hemorrhaged off some money with it in the last couple weeks, haven't we? I've been glued to this. I've been watching all the this shit show unfold. I am just like, this is the best entertainment on the internet right now.
Hmm.
And not in his defense whatsoever. It's
No, no,
become
no.
such a shit show. Obviously they rolled out this verification system. They wanted to get rid of the serfdom or whatever it was that he was talking about. No more peasants and this and that. So
Yeah.
they got people to pay $8 to get rid of this peasants and lords system, which sounds a lot like paying $8 to have special access to Twitter, better engagement and better improved ads, which sounds a lot like a peasants and lords system, if you ask me.
You know what's actually funny about this whole thing too?
Mhm.
It it's actually that like even just saying like people paying $8 to get Twitter Blue and have the better version of Twitter, it's even that's like misleading because what's actually happening is like if you don't have the better version of Twitter, you
Mhm.
get buried. You end up at the bottom of feeds, you don't show up above the blue checks. So like even that is like it's not even like you're getting a better version if you pay the $8. It's like you're paying the $8 just to not get buried
Right.
behind the people who didn't
Yeah, it's
pay
a keep the
$8.
pores out
Like
system. It's like,
it's literally making it worse for everyone, but you can pay to like make it not get worse for you. It's
right.
insane.
It is.
Um, it reminds me of like there was a whole thing in game design that happened with World of Warcraft, where like when you played World of Warcraft for longer, they would eventually start to give you'd get diminished returns on your experience.
Hmm.
And
Like did that in Destiny when it first came out.
yes,
Destiny
Destiny had
2.
that problem,
Hmm.
which is hilarious because that problem was already solved in Final Fantasy and some other games where like
Right.
they had even World of Warcraft actually had already fixed it by the time Destiny implemented it, which was really weird. The problem was like they didn't want you to play too much, so they would diminish your returns on your experience, so you'd get less. So you would be incentivized to like stop playing, right?
Hmm.
But it wasn't a strong enough incentive to stop playing. People would still play and then just bitch about the fact that their playtime was worth less, you know? So they flipped it. So what they did was they came up with the idea of you have a base amount of return of a base amount of experience that you always get. And then if you hadn't played for a while, you'd earn like rest experience. Like so you say you earn like 100 grand in rest experience, then as you get your normal experience, you get extra experience from that rest pool. And that way you're getting extra for having not played for a day.
Hmm.
And then once that runs out, you're back to normal. It's the same exact thing. You're getting an amount, and then the amount is diminishing over time. Except by doing it this way, it's framed as a positive because you're always getting your base amount, but now you're getting bonus, right?
Right, right.
So it sounds like you're like, here, and then to this, when in reality, it's the same thing it always was. You're getting an
It's
amount,
just
and then you're getting less.
marketed
But
different,
it's
right.
framed positively. And that made all the difference for everybody. And Final Fantasy has the same thing. You ever sleep
Hmm.
in a town or at your house, you get the green experience bar that gives you extra until it runs out. Um, Elon Musk did the opposite. He literally found a way to reverse that. by being like, hey, what if you have to be here to pay to be here, and then everyone else is down here, and it's like, what? You literally did the opposite of what you could have done. You could oh my god, I can't even go on about that because it was such a bad idea. Like this past 2 weeks have shown that this guy literally only got to where he is riding in the back of money because he has no idea what the fuck he's talking about.
Right. He absolutely has no idea what he's doing.
Twitter was shitting on him today. They tore him apart because he tweeted something like, "Sorry, Twitter is slowing down in a lot of places. We're doing over 1,000 RCPs, just to reload the homepage for people." And it was like, you're saying that just started happening though, because that would have been that would have been regular infrastructural stuff that would have always happened.
Mm-hmm.
So either that's not the reason it's happening, or if that is the reason, what the fuck did you guys do to suddenly jump up to over 1,000 RCPs to rebuild the homepage? What the fuck did you guys do?
Well, there's a theory that they implemented a developer build of Twitter right now, which is not good.
Right.
Because you have a lot of security holes and shit. Here's like where the core problem was. Elon Musk decided that he was going to fire every fucking engineer at this company that wrote less than 10,000 lines of code a year, because he just looked at assembly line productivity, not taking into account that some of the people that are writing less than 10,000 lines of code a year are the problem solvers, are the head engineers, and are the people that are basically the specialists. So he wipes them all out.
Security people aren't writing 10,000 lines of code a fucking week because they don't need to. They're only doing patches at best.
Right. So wipes out all the experts and only has like the layman code writers now. And then like put out this like bunk story that, oh, we accidentally fired them, and it's like, they ain't coming back now though. Like, they're done. Like, and then there was a Slack leak saying that they're bringing these employees back and they're all fucking lazy. Like, the guy,
he's like, they're lazy, entitled, they might be anti-Trump or anti-Elon Twitter. And then he was like, remember, we have to get these people back so they can transfer the knowledge to the new people, and that's it. And it was like, my guy, you gave the game away. You literally were just like, we only need them back so they could teach, hire, we can hire new recruits and they can teach the new recruits.
Right.
Why would they do that at that point?
And you think about like how sloppy this firing was. How many old employees still probably have access to these Slack things, and it leaked?
Oh yeah. Not just the Slack thing. I mean, people still had access to other stuff. We saw at one point Elon Musk's account was banned and then got unbanned.
Oh.
You didn't see that one? He got banned for like an hour one morning. He was just banned, and then he was unbanned like in the same day. We saw that a bunch of people who have Elon banned on Twitter found that he wasn't banned anymore. They went to his profile. They knew they had banned him explicitly, and then they went to his profile, and he wasn't banned anymore. And a lot of people were saying like, oh yeah, he could just unban himself. Like, it's quite possible he just started unbanning himself from people, because if I ban Elon Musk, the main thing is he can't see my Twitter profile.
Sure.
But if he just unbans himself, what does it matter? Obviously, he could probably still internally look at that data, but that's probably more of like an abuse of power, an unlawful use of accessing my profile. Whereas if he could just unban himself and then look at it, then he wouldn't have to worry about jumping through legal channels or something.
And you can't tell me he's not using some time to like go through people's DMs, because he just has unfettered access to everything on Twitter now.
Absolutely.
And he's a spiteful person. So
yeah, absolutely. And then we saw what was it? I saw today.
Infinitely immature.
And yeah, like people keep saying things like, Bernie Sanders talking about insulin, and he's like, oh, actually, insulin does cost a lot to make. And then fucking Twitter's like fact check feature where like users of Twitter all collectively say the same thing at a tweet, and it gets like overriding and says like, hey, by the way, this is what people are saying. Like, that course corrected him and was like, no, actually, Bernie is literally 100% correct. Insulin costs $9 to manufacture in the U.S. And we charge $100 or more than $100 for it.
He
there was another one, the Hillary Clinton one.
Fucking anything.
He tweeted under Hillary Clinton and was like, actually, this whole thing with Pelosi's husband might have been like a whole thing. And he linked to like a rag blog that no one's ever heard of. And then like it got fact checked by his own website, and then he deleted it and didn't say anything about it. Didn't like, oh yeah, I'm apologizing, it was wrong. No, nothing. He just fucking deleted it and walked away from it.
He'll never admit that he was wrong for anything.
There was a video today that went up. It happened again today. A video went up of a Tesla trying to auto park.
Yes.
And then it just peeled off down the road.
Took off at full speed.
100 miles an hour. Ran by a bunch of people, hit a guy on a bike, knocked another guy off their bike, smashed through like a fruit cart thing, and then hit like another thing and fucking, killed 2 people. And he retweeted it and put like 2 laughing face emoji.
What?
Yeah, he retweeted it with just 2 laughing face emojis.
Wow.
And then that tweet got deleted, and then all of a sudden that video started getting deleted from everyone who was tweeting it, like everywhere. Like I actually had to go looking for it because the original videos of it were gone, and the tweets that I saw that had talked about it were gone.
I saw that China's launching an investigation in it because that was, I guess, where it happened. So they're launching an investigation into this now, and that's not gonna go well.
Yeah. What was the one? There was like one where he was just like, people were talking about like his purchase of Twitter, and he was like, I did it for the lols, and it was like, what? You're like, you destroyed this entire ecosystem because you thought it was funny?
Right.
You're like, okay, great.
Ruined it for advertisers, ruined it for businesses, ruined it for governments, ruined it for people that are trying to get out of dictatorship regimes. You've ruined it for all this, and this is just entertainment for you. Like,
and not just that, but like even just people like me and you, like I follow a whole bunch of indie game developers and game developers in general, and that's my game dev community that I watch and follow and talk about and communicate with. They're all on Twitter. Like I had to go start making LinkedIn requests and start finding Discords and jump through hoops to find the people that I follow that are like mentors in my community in case Twitter goes down, because it's the only way I have them. And that sucks to have to, like, I have so many tweets bookmarked that are like developer tools and tips and how to do this and processes and breakthrough things and teaching things and lessons, resources. And now I have to like back all these up because Elon Musk thought it would be funny to buy Twitter. Like, oh my God.
Not only funny to buy Twitter, but funny to run it into the ground.
Yeah, he like, it was a profitable business before. It was making more than enough money to sustain itself. And then he buys it, ruins it in a week, and then goes, we might have to bankrupt because it's actually not profitable anymore. And it was like, well, I fucking wonder.
It was until the last week or so.
Fine. Yeah.
We had, it was another major, I saw it on Hassan, another another major like ad company saying, pause advertising, not a good time to do it.
Yeah, a huge one that was responsible for like 2,000 groups or something did.
Yes. Mind you, this is a week and change before Black Friday. This is the biggest time of year for advertising revenue.
Oh, dude, not to mention how fast did like all these fake accounts pop up with getting check marks, like Nintendo posting Mario flipping the bird.
Right.
And it was like Nintendo doofus, but like people has a blue check. Who the fuck even checks that shit half the time? People don't look at handles half the time.
Well, that's the thing too. Is like it was funny. I don't think anyone's noticed that, but like, the anagram was like Nintendo of USA or Nintendo of US. It's Nintendo doofus. That's how it worked out, and I love that. Yeah. But this is why it's bad for gaming.
Yeah, it's bad for everything.
People as bad, like big as Nintendo, they're gonna fucking rear their horns. You don't want to. I don't care if you're the richest man in the world or not. You don't want to be at the fucking business end of Nintendo's lawyers.
Oh no, absolutely not.
We see it in game journalism. It's affecting game journalism. It's affecting legitimacy of like articles written. We're seeing like people. Being like not parodied, like but people being like imitated, and it's causing like the legitimacy of their journalism.
How many people did we already lose off the platform? Nibel left within a couple of days of him fucking buying it. He was like, "No, I can't be here."
Right.
Yeah, like shit like that, and then of course like, oh, I'm gonna be impartial. I'm gonna be the owner. It's Twitter just needs to be like neutral. Twitter needs to just be free speech, and everybody can do what they want.
Right.
And we stay neutral. And then the day before the election, he endorses a party.
Right.
Like full-throated, like everyone needs to vote for this party, and his justification was, we need to vote for this party because they're not the party currently in power.
Right.
I'm sorry, like that's a good reason.
How that works.
Policy, not outcomes for people. Literally, just because they're not in power. Like, okay, what a great decision.
Yeah, that's how you get dictatorships, is by shifting power deliberately like that. And
listen, guys, I'm just saying, like the fascists aren't in power right now, and the only way for them to have a fair representation is to let them have 50% of congressional power and make some fascist rules in some places.
Yeah,
that'll keep them happy. They'll be happy. Like maybe we just need to sacrifice like the South Bible Belt and the Midwest and let them all live at gunpoint under strong arm fascism. And then, that way the rest of us can kind of just live our lives, I guess. Who cares?Ose people will be fine out there. It won't matter.
Right.
Like, stupid shit like that. And And then, of course, we've got all these fake politicians and fake newscaster people going up on fake accounts and posting bullshit about, like, doing this and doing that and saying this and saying that. A company lost, like, billions of dollars for their insulin thing. What was that? Lilly... What's it called?
Lily something. Lily L or Lily EI. I don't fucking know.
An impersonator made an account for them and was like, insulin should be free. And then they were like, oh, actually, that's not our account. And then they're like, actually, this is our account. And just the interactions caused them to lose because everyone's like, I mean, rightfully so. Insulin obviously should be cheaper, as you know, the whole thing
Right.
with Bernie and
I'll
Elon
tell you what,
happened.
that $8 spent has created a lot of
Oh
social
yeah.
uproar that I have. We might actually see some like political shifting or some shift to make insulin cheaper because of that $8 that was spent.
Yep.
That's wild.
What was the other one? He got into it with like
Very
he
unintended
got into it.
consequence.
He got into it with like a senator because the senator was like talking about Twitter, and Elon just retweeted him and was like, maybe because your name sounds like a joke."
Yeah.
And the dude turned around. He's like, "Okay, well, to be fair, your company, one of your companies, is under investigation by the FTC.
Mm-hmm.
One of your companies is in investigation from China because your Tesla murdered people today, and you specifically are like going to be looked at. What was it? There was another thing too. He's being looked at by something else now. I think FTC was looking at the Twitter thing, and then China was looking at the Tesla thing. Crazy shit." And he's like, maybe you should actually run your fucking companies instead of running them into the ground before Congress has to step in and run them for you. It's like, holy shit, dude. Like, and like, yeah, half of his posts are like insane, unhinged. Like, I posted a link to this random blog and then delete it and then not say anything later.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, he's gotten fact checked by Twitter like a couple. Oh yeah, he was like, actually, Twitter is like the #1 driver of clicks. And then people were like, no,
That's not even remotely true.
Facebook is like 70% of it actually, because everybody uses that still to some capacity.
Sure. Except me.
Well, you know, I just think in general, like,
sure. It's still widely popular. So Twitter has a unique problem where people read headlines and nothing else. And I see it all the time. I see it on Facebook too, yes, but they obviously get more click-throughs. Paul Tassi today was talking about it. He said that he maybe gets 5% of click-throughs through Twitter. As what he has 125,000 followers, and maybe 5% of his click-throughs are from Twitter. You still there?
Yeah, I lost you for a second. It was my Discord was like,
yeah, you kind of got locked up there for a second. All right.
Yeah. No, yeah, I saw that same thing Tassi said. Like his click-through rate was like from Twitter is like nothing. And then the fact check popped up and was like 74% of click-through is from Facebook. 7% comes from Twitter, which is about the same as Pinterest, which is like nothing. So he doesn't even know his own fucking company. He buys company. Right. He's like, yeah, well, we're responsible for 3/4 of click-through.
He knows it. He knows his company. He just knows he's full of shit, and like he just, you know.
Yep. No, absolutely. Yeah, and it's just so funny because like more and more people lately have been watching these things happen and seeing what he's been saying, and now that he's speaking more on Twitter and talking to people about Twitter and making decisions at Twitter, and like they, Twitter Blue happened, and then people were like, this actually makes a million things worse and doesn't solve anything,
and it cost the company money at the end of the day.
Yeah, oh yeah, and they were losing money. The amount of money they made from Twitter Blue was way lower than the amount they lost on the advertisers. They were actually, it was a net loss. And then the best part, they're like, this doesn't actually solve the problem we need of like a verified accounts. And he goes, oh shit, they're right. Okay, we're gonna make official, and it's gonna be another check mark that shows up as well. And it was like, okay, I guess.
Right.
You reinvented the old Twitter Blue check mark. Great. And then they put it up, and then it went away in like an hour, and they were like, "Oh, we fucked up," and they took it back down. And then they went around again, and they made two blue check marks. One, if you click on it now, it says this person is Twitter Blue, and they paid $8. And the other one says like this person's verified because they're like an important person in like media and shit. And then that had a problem because like people like Ludwig, a big YouTuber, or Twitch streamer, I guess, I don't know. He bought the $8 Blue to get less ads,
and then lost his
it overrode the official part. So now it looks like he just paid for Twitter Blue, and that's why he's official and not like official.
It should be two separate things.
And now it is two things again because they went back to doing official again. So it was like, what the fuck are we doing over here?
I don't know.
And then you know what he says at the end of the day? He goes, "Oh, companies will be allowed to send us information to verify who they are, and then we'll give them the official." And it was like, that's the fucking system we had before you bought it 2 weeks ago. That worked just fine.
Yeah. Oh man. Yep. Well, that's the thing. Like the verification beforehand, before Musk took over, was flawed. I will say that all day. But this is,
of course,
infinitely worse. And the big draw, I think the cherry on top of this is like less than 50,000 people bought into the Twitter Blue thing. You think about that compared to how many Twitter users there are. Let's see how many. Let me see how many users there are here in Twitter. almost 400 million users globally, and less than 50,000 bought into the blue check.
That's like, well, I'm sorry, you said how many? 50,000?
Less than 50,000. I think it was like 46, 47, and they rounded up to 50. It's like less than the concurrent player count on Destiny for Steam.
And how many users on Twitter in general?
Almost 400 million, like 396.
400 million. That's
it's got to be less than 1%.
If you do 50,000 users and you divide it by 400 million users in general, and you move the decimal place 2 points to get a percentage, the percentage is 0.0125.
Sounds about right.
So 0.01% of users paid for Twitter Blue. So
not even like the Musk desk writers are buying into it, because they just like,
yeah, not why? Even like, yeah. Oh my god. I remember like this whole thing about, he was like, oh yeah, bots. There's so many bots on Twitter. I feel like most of those bots were like for him.
That's what I'm saying. It's like
he was like on board with or whatever.
It's like, do you realize like the bots are like the crypto bots, the bots out of Russia? It's like all of those bots benefit you, and like by all means get rid of them. I don't give a shit.
And they didn't go anywhere. They didn't, because
they didn't implement anything.
Well, yeah, like Tassie will be like, something happened, Twitter, Elon Musk, and he'll get like 10 people in his replies. He didn't even say anything bad. He'll just be like, Elon Musk, so Elon Musk really bought Twitter, huh? And in the comments, people will be like, oh, you're just mad they bought Twitter because like you hate him. And it was like, he just commented on the news. He didn't even give an opinion yet. He just said like, this was the thing that happened today. Yep. And you guys showed up in the replies to like lube yourselves up and hop on.
So
that was wild.
Yeah, and like a lot of the people that have bots or have like scam bots or anything like that, the cost of $8 is probably just the cost of doing business for them. Like they're probably still reaping the reward, especially if they're scam bots.
Well, that's the problem. A lot of normal like streamers and YouTubers and small content creators, small artists like painters and people who do commissions, all these people had to like felt obligated to like pay the $8. Well, obviously not that many did, but like a lot of people were saying that they feel like they need to, or that they would feel like they would need to in if the ecosystem stays around long enough. Because if I go looking for people to do commissions, the people with the blue checks show up first. They show up first in my comments. They show up first in my replies. They show up first in my search. So like, you have to spend that $8 if you're trying to make any kind of money on Twitter. But hey, don't worry, because if you're a YouTube creator, you can come over and make videos on Twitter because he'll pay you 10% more than YouTube pays you.
Right. And that's also another interesting thing.
Chapter 11.
Like, yeah, where's they going to get the money? Unless he's going to pay it out of pocket.
The company's not sustainable. We have to file Chapter 11.
Right.
But we're gonna offer more money to YouTubers than YouTube does.
They don't even have a fucking infrastructure for it yet, and they're already making these offers. It's like, you don't have anything to provide to the creators. And as a creator myself, like, if I have to pay $8 to even get seen, and that's not even guaranteed like an increase in traffic. That's just to be seen.
It's like
then I'm not going to use Twitter. I'm not going to use Twitter as
normal.
So
yeah.
I don't.
What did I see? Like, oh, dude, like even today I saw that video of the Tesla thing happening, right? Or no, it was a different video I saw. I saw another video about politics that was 2 minutes, and like, when I see a video on YouTube that's like an hour, like a debate or like talking about what's happening in politics, I'll watch that shit because it's an hour video on YouTube and I'm used to that. On Twitter, if you show me a video and then the time tag says it's 2 minutes, I'm like, oh man, 2 minutes. Like I'm already conditioned to not be there for that content. Like,
exactly.
2 minutes feels like forever on Twitter when I'm watching a video.
Twitter is never going to be like the next YouTube. That's insane.
It's just one of those things where it's like you set up, you know, like if you go to like a Six Flags anywhere in the country, you go to a Six Flags. You're expecting that the food is like fair food, right? Like you're not expecting good food at a Six Flags. You're expecting like cheap, kind of greasy pizza, kind of cheap chicken nuggets. Like that's just what it is. You know what I mean? That's just what you expect at those places. That's what you at Twitter. You don't expect long video content. Long form video content isn't there. You don't watch it.
You don't go to you don't go to like Dorney Park or Disney. Disney's a horrible example, but you don't go to like Six Flags, like you said. And you don't go there for like a fucking 5-course meal, or it's like, oh, I'm in my bathing suit. I can't eat a steak in my bathing suit. Like, doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's exactly the case. Like yeah, like if I was gonna go like, I wouldn't tell my wife to like get on a red dress and some nice heels and get her hair done up and get her makeup done, and then bring her to like a state park for like a picnic. Like,
Right.
you don't expect that there. That's not what that's for.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's just wild to watch people like him specifically be like, yeah, pay YouTube creators even more than YouTube pays them to come over to Twitter, and it was like, with what fucking money? You're like you're like in the hole for buying Twitter in the first place.
Borderline insolvent.
You just said you were going to be bankrupt now. Like, Twitter's going to have to shut down for bankruptcy because you can't afford to keep the place running, which is your fault because you drove all the advertisers away and the investors away.
Right. And they expect YouTube creators to either break a contract to get out of it, to go over to Twitter. And to what? There's no infrastructure that there for it. And there's no user base for it.
There's a reason why the only competitor for YouTube for like most content, like gaming and stuff, is like Twitch, because like Mixer was around and it died. Facebook did theirs, and as far as I can tell, Facebook gaming is like dead. There's like pretty much no one doing it. I don't see pushes for it anymore. No one tries to push for it anymore. Yeah. Like, and if Facebook could not compete with YouTube and Twitch, and Mixer couldn't compete with Twitch, like, what the fuck is Twitter gonna do?
Right.
Like, if maybe pre-Elon, if Twitter had decided to go in that direction, it was possible. If they implemented some new infrastructure to make it happen,
they would have to do it slowly. Do like slow rollouts overnight, or bits at a time.
Implement feature over feature. Right. Yeah, you can't just fucking snap your fingers and be like, and now all of YouTube will migrate to us. Like,
right. It's never going to happen.
Fuck? What are you on about?
No one in their fucking right mind as a creator is going to do it, unless it was someone stupid like fucking Ninja or something. But I don't see it happening. I don't see a single creator leaving YouTube money for Twitter money that we know doesn't exist.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, exactly. It's insane. And then just like destroying Twitter's like any sense of like verification on Twitter like 2 days before a fucking election, and then like all this shit happening right before Black Friday when all these advertisers are looking to advertise like heavily. Like, anyone whoever with a straight face tells me Elon Musk is a smart businessman, I'm going to point at them and be like, this guy ruined the number one social media platform for advertisers like 2 weeks before they wanted to advertise everything on the fucking planet that they could advertise.
Right.
Like, this has to be the number one time of the year where advertisers are looking to pour money into advertisements to see a return at the stores. Like,
well, I can't even think of a better metaphor, because this seems like the standard root metaphor for Elon Musk. He's what a stupid person thinks a smart person is.
Yeah, literally. The dude literally fills upward. Like, right. It's insane.
Of course. You finally get to that. You get to like that money threshold where it doesn't matter if you fail a million times. You're never going to be poor.
I was going to make the joke. That Elon feels like crypto as a person, but he pretty much is crypto as a person.
He is. Yeah.
He even did that. Yep. Like, he even did that whole thing. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, it sucks because, like, obviously our podcast is primarily about gaming, and from a gaming perspective, this sucks. It sucks from every perspective, but from a gaming perspective, game journalism. If you have if you have game people you follow, if you have content creators you follow, small content creators get buried immediately. Bigger content creators have to pay or have to work extra to get their way around it. And the lack of engagement from people trying to flee to other platforms causes numbers to go down. You get a vicious cycle. Game developers don't want to publish ads and things on Twitter and push their games on Twitter because it's a bad place to put your stuff now. Like, journalists are leaving the platform. People like Nibel, who was a well-respected, he was usually like source zero for a lot of information.
Oh yeah.
So him leaving is like, holy shit. It sucks in every capacity you could imagine. It sucks.
Yep.
There's no winner here. It's just garbage.
Straight up. All right, well, let's move on. I'm sure we'll probably talk about more about this, at least in the future, because he ain't done yet. There's still plenty of house to burn down here, so
yeah,
we'll see. Let's move on. Get towards the end of this here. We're going to talk about upcoming game releases this week. Let's take a look. So, November 15th, we have Floodland on PC, Pentiment on the Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and PC. Smurfs Kart, finally, coming to the Switch. Somerville, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and PC. Shredder's Revenge, coming to the PlayStation 5. And Ys, Lacrimosa of Dana, coming to the PS5 as well. I think I already have that on the Switch. November 16th, we're getting Call of Duty Warzone 2.0. That's coming to PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and PC. November 7th, we're getting the Goat Simulator 3, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, PC. Can't wait to see some playtime on that. That's going to be a hilarious game.
Yeah.
Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales coming to the PC. PID coming to the Switch. A couple no-name games, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet coming into the Switch. I don't think anyone's ever heard of them. Resident Evil 3 coming to the Switch, and Dark Pictures Anthology, Devil in Me coming to the PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and PC. That is all coming at you this week. So I'll definitely be picking up the Pokemon games. I always buy the dual packs, and I just kind of hand them to my daughter. I'm like, you pick one, I'll play the other, and then that's what we do. So I'm excited to see that. There is going to be a lot of co-op mechanics in this Pokemon, so I'll definitely be interested, at least either doing a stream with everyone else who has Pokemon in our community, or something even off stream. So I'll be definitely excited. I know Claire's picking it up. I'm not sure if you're intending on picking it up or not, but
it's on my list. I think I was thinking of getting it for the kids for Christmas, getting one for one for the other.
Sure.
So I might not actually play it at launch. I might just stock it in their Christmas gifts and then kind of get to it down the road.
Fair enough.
I guess we'll see. I know my next purchase that I feel like is a mandatory one is a few weeks out is Midnight Suns, the Marvel Midnight Suns.
Yeah, that looks good. Where are you getting that on?
I'm excited for that game. Oh, that's a good question, actually. I have no idea. Is it on Steam? Because I'll probably get it there.
Probably on Steam. Yeah, let's if we're gonna do like a co-op thing with that, I would say, is that a co-op thing?
I think it's a single player game, story-driven single player.
Never mind that.
Because it's a tactical top-down game. I don't think there's a lot of multiplayer components you could do.
Right.
But I'll double check. I just know that one, the way the combat and the way the progression system seems to work in that game is extremely interesting to me.
Sure.
It's a gameplay loop that I'm very interested in messing around with. Wasn't there something else that comes out soon? No, I think it's the Crisis Core remake is in December as well.
That's coming up. Yep. I'm
that's
really
also
looking forward to that.
Game.
Looks really good. Looks really good.
I don't think Midnight Suns is a single player game. Yeah,
okay,
that makes sense. I'm not sure what they would do to make it multiplayer other than social spaces.
Yeah.
So that's fair.
That's fair, yep. All right, let's look on to gaming history. Take a look here. This is a big one this week. Pokemon Sun and Moon came out on the 3DS 6 years ago. The PlayStation 4 launched 9 years ago. The Wii U launched 10 years ago. Super Mario Land 3D came out on the Nintendo DS 11 years ago. Assassin's Creed came out on the Xbox 360 and the PS3 15 years ago. Uncharted Drake's Fortune came out on the PlayStation 3 15 years ago. The PlayStation 3 console launch was 16 years ago. The Nintendo Wii console launch was 16 years ago. Zelda Twilight Princess on the Wii came out 16 years ago. Obviously a launch title there. Mario Kart on the DS came out 17 years ago. Metroid Prime 2 Echoes came out on the GameCube 18 years ago. Half-Life 2 came out to the PC 18 years ago. I can't wait for Half-Life 3. It's coming out one of these days. It's coming.
Yeah, stay tuned. We're going to talk about it.
Yeah. Mario Kart Double Dash came out of the GameCube 19 years ago. And Metroid Prime came to the GameCube 20 years ago. The GameCube launched 21 years ago. Luigi's Mansion came out 21 years ago. The Xbox launched 21 years ago. Skies of Arcadia on the Dreamcast 22 years ago. WWF No Mercy came out on the N64 22 years ago. Half-Life, the original, part of the trilogy, came out 24 years ago. Parappa the Rappa came out on the PlayStation 25 years ago. Tomb Raider came to the PlayStations, Sega, Saturn, and DOS 26 years ago. It's wild to think of those two generations, like DOS and Sega, Saturn, and PlayStation all being in the same era.
It's so weird.
DOS ran late, man. We have the Atari Jaguar launched 29 years ago. Sonic CD released 29 years ago. Lethal Enforcers came to the arcade 30 years ago. And Takashi Tezuka was born 62 years ago, and Shigeru Miyamoto was born 70 years ago. I almost said came out 70 years ago. So obviously we see a pattern here. A lot of console launches. This is the time of year where Obviously, this is like the sweet spot for console launches. I'm pretty sure we'll probably see a peppering next week.
Do you,
But
do you think like Nintendo keeps putting out consoles on Miyamoto's birthday, like just because?
oh my god, maybe like that's the thing. He's getting 70 years old this week.
That's
That's
crazy.
frightening.
You know,
It makes
I will
me feel
say
old.
for a 70-year-old developer, his graphics are pretty good. He looks like he looks pretty 3D. He looks pretty
Right,
real.
right.
He holds up pretty well.
I'll
Over
tell you
time.
what, not only does he look young, he is still just as fucking great as he was 30 years ago with Nintendo. The guy is a pivotal keystone of Nintendo, and I
Yeah.
can't think of that. I can't think of Nintendo without him.
Dude, let me tell you, the more I read about like the early days of gaming in the 90s and 2000s, like the more, even the 80s even, the more like I keep coming across story after story where like a company, usually a Nintendo affiliated company, was just like, we didn't know what the fuck to do with blank, so we called Miyamoto and he just showed up and like made a thing from
Just
thin
do
air.
this. Yeah.
He's like the gaming MacGyver. Like they would be like, fucking a company would call him and be like, "Hey, Miyamoto, we don't know what to do. Like, what do we call the next Nintendo?" And he's like, "The Super Nintendo." And they were like, like, "Oh my god, it's so
Yeah.
funny." They'd be like, "Oh yeah, we were trying to make a game, and we don't even know what our game's going to be about." And he would just walk in with like a rubber band and a paper clip and sit down and be like, "Imagine if you did this, and that's the reason we had GoldenEye," or some shit like that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean,
it's so crazy.
he's why we got Mario Kart from shit, what's the game?
Oh, I told you about that. F1,
Yeah,
the F-Zero.
F-Zero, yes. Thank you.
They were like, we want to make F-Zero 2 players, and he
Mhm.
walked in and sat down. They were like, we can't make F-Zero run with 2 players. Like, we can't do split screen, and we can't keep
Right.
them on the same screen because that doesn't work. So, like, what do we do? And he was like, slow them down, make them really slow. And they were like, why would you play an F-Zero where it's really slow? And he's like, make them go karts. That'll be fun. And then they played it, and they were like, okay, yeah, it's kind of cool to have go karts, but like, how do we sell this game if it's not F-Zero? And he's like, make Mario Kart. And they were like, are you fucking serious? And
Right.
then he just like left the studio and they were like, holy shit. And then they made Mario Kart and it fucking did gangbusters. Like
He said,
the dude
make
just, like,
Mario
he was-
Kart,
he
he
just-
left and failed to elaborate.
yeah, it was like, yeah, it's just crazy to think he could walk into a studio and look at them and be like, let me take the scope of your project and then just manipulate it into like a perfectly fucking workable game and be like, here, you should make this.
Right.
And they're like, holy shit. All right, yeah. Like it was crazy. That's how he did everything. That's how he made Zelda. He literally just sat down one day and was like, I like exploring the caves in my backyard. What would if I made a whole game about this? And just fucking prototyped the game out of it.
Mhm.
Oh man, the dude's crazy.
Yep, gotta love it. All right, well, we're going to wrap up the show for this week. I do appreciate everyone for tuning in and watching live or watching later. You can always find me on Twitch streaming on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. You can find me there at Retro Game Dude. You can find me here on YouTube at Retro Game Dude. And then on Twitter, you can find me as Game Dude Retro. And like I said, our schedule here this week will be Tuesday at 9, Wednesday at 9, and Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern. And of course, Jackbox will be on Saturday. And that's always open to anyone who wants to play. We always have a good time. It's always a ruckus. So yeah, definitely. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.